This week I somehow fit 3 of the Northern Colorado famous Trainor Brothers into my podcast studio, with Brian, Adam, and Joe Trainor all sharing their stories and philosophies with me and with our listeners. The 3 brothers are a total of 4 years apart and grew up in Junta, Colorado, with their single-parent father, an enterprising teacher that kept the family fed with side jobs and construction projects. Brian went to CSU on an athletic scholarship, and Adam followed him 2 years later. Both were standout track athletes in the throwing arts, javelin, discus, shot put, and hammer. Brian got into real estate after college as a broker and investor, and soon recruited Adam to help with fix and flip projects. Soon, 970 Services was growing into a roofing and restoration business, and the brothers helped to start 2 more businesses, H3 Construction and Beyond Blue Media, and they coaxed younger brother Joe out of his teaching career to become the president of another acquisition, Epoxy Colorado. The Trainor Brothers Circus is what they literally call their holding company, and this episode is full of stories of overcoming adversity, starting something new, and navigating business and brotherhood together and with joy. I'm sure you're going to enjoy this inspiring conversation with Brian, Adam, and Joe Trainor on the Loco Experience.
Let's have some fun.
Welcome to the Loco Experience podcast. On this show, you'll get to know business and community leaders from all around Northern Colorado and beyond. Our guests share their stories, business stories, life stories, stories of triumph and of tragedy, and through it all, you'll be inspired and entertained. These conversations are real and raw, and no topics are off limits. So pop in a breath mint and get ready to meet our latest guest. Welcome back to the Loco Experience podcast. I'm honored today to be joined by the Trainor Brothers. We've got Brian Trainor, Adam Trainor, and Joe here. I think we're at room capacity for this little office space. And Brian's a real estate agent with C3, also the co-founder and president currently of Trainor Brothers Circus. Mm-hmm. And Adam's the president of 970 Services and the current secretary, former president of Trainor Brothers Circus. And Joe is the president of Epoxy Colorado and the newest member of the Trainor Brothers Circus. So I think, oldest goes first, Brian. Why don't we start with you and describe, I guess, should we start with describing the Trainor Brothers Circus? Is that too wide of a scope to start with?
No, I think that's perfect.
Okay.
Probably. I think it helps better understand we had to make up our titles as we got here, ready to do the podcast. So
right.
Who's who, right? And it came from our coach. Me and Adam were on the track team at CSU together initially. Okay. And so we were both athletes here. And I think coach came in one day and we were both trying to pole vault. And coach was like, you guys are a bunch of clowns, and he started calling us Trainor Brothers Circus. Lucky enough to have Joe come up and train with us for a year at CSU, right? So at one point we were all on the track team at the same time.
Cool. And what were your specialties?
Oh, we threw things, man. Yeah.
Discuses and javelins.
Yeah, discs, jav. I primarily threw the discus and some shot put. Adam threw hammer and javelin and everything. And then Joe was more of a discus guy.
I was more of a baseball player. Do you think I could beat you guys in a snowball fight?
You probably could, man.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm just checking because this is a wussy way to.
It is a really wussy way to throw stuff. Exactly. So it's.
Well, it's great for discuses.
It was great for discus. Yeah, it was great. So no, that's kind of where the circus came from, and it's really true, right? I think it's. If anybody listening has started a business or been dumb enough to be an entrepreneur, that it feels like that sometimes, where you're just kind of. It's like that 3-ring circus, and they're all on fire sometimes, And
yeah. The first piece of intellectual property that Loco Think Tank developed was me in 2018. I developed what we called the floats, a self-assessment, and it was like financial, leadership, opportunities versus obsolescence, administration, and process. And we just changed it about a year ago to thrives. Because we don't want to just float, But at that time, I was swimming to the surface from below the surface, and I'm sure that there was probably times in your past.
It's always that way. I think that you, I don't think we'll get into the technical side of some of the businesses right now, but as we grow, we've seen kind of growth out of Joe's company, Epoxy, growth at roofing, and as you grow, right,
new challenges, new opportunities,
all the things, right? So
okay.
So Trainor Brothers Circus, Adam and I started. Adam, it was almost 10 years ago we started roofing. He and I had been doing construction remodel projects, flipping homes prior to that.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because of your real estate background, you've been in real estate for longer.
Since 2006. And there was, we were both in construction prior to that together. I moved into real estate. Adam went to run an excavation company. We were looking for something to do and started picking up houses like a lot of guys did around here in that time.
Yeah.
And then one day we just kind of looked around and there was like 6 guys showing up every day, and they were, they thought they had a job, like full-time job. And Adam and I remember we kind of went like, what are we going to do with these guys, right? And
this
we like
going
these
to be
guys
done here pretty soon.
Yeah, and so we eventually started taking on other projects, commercial, residential, just construction type stuff. And out of that, we actually saw the roofing sector was probably our most profitable kind of sector of that. And one day I kind of asked Adam, we're sitting in our chicken coop that was our office at the time, literally chicken coop, and
chicken coop.
Yeah, and I just said, how many phone calls did you make on that roof you did last month? And he said, I think 4 or 5. And so we thought, that's pretty good, for the dollars, that ROI, kind of dollars per hour kind of thing.
All those people that kept showing up had ability to execute.
Yeah, right. And so and it was a sector we could repeat. And so you looked at flips, and we were always chasing our dinner every month, right? I was trying to find deals, and so this felt like something we could do and have it be replicable.
Yeah. Have revenue every month.
Yeah,
instead of just
in theory, we'd have revenue every month, right? And so
I'm sure you got revenue.
In practice, well, there was something.
We had a long hail stretch there where we didn't get much.
We've had a little bit of a kind of a shortage of hail, we feel like, but that's all right. So I guess, to wrap up what the TBC is, really it was, I guess Adam and I started that, but it was always something, I think, from my end. If you really step back and look at it, I recognize that Adam had a really good skill set, and I thought if I can just keep him doing what he does really well, and then I get to do what I do really well, we can make a really good team, And then we saw other guys in those industries like, that we thought, okay, he's a great technician. We'll just have him focus on that, and if we can build a team around supporting him from that administrative level, then we might have something.
And that's kind of what maybe the Trainor Brothers Circus has evolved into, is like finding a special person with a special skill set and putting stuff around them that they need.
Yeah, and we're lucky now. We have a full-time CPA accountant that just works for us. We have an attorney that is retired but full-time for us now, and so we have a marketing director that supports what Beyond Blue does for us on the marketing side.
Cool.
So we have kind of a good kind of top-end staff that we can lean on to. Yeah. We do.
Adam, let's hear your perspective on all of that. And I was wondering, when Brian introduced himself as kind of the chief vision guy, and in some ways, are you familiar with that traction system? And are you the integrator?
I think Joe called me the visionary. I don't.
Yeah, the vision keeper.
I wouldn't throw that out myself.
Okay, yeah.
The keeper of the vision. I think
that executor kind of personality type.
Yeah, before traction was really a thing for us, we kind of just knew that our relationship worked so well because Brian was just really good at kind of looking at the horizon and kind of seeing what opportunities might be out there. I was more of a just show me what wall to tear down, I'll tear it down. Yeah. And so I would say I'm more of the implementer in that whole kind of structure there. But I think that it's worked really well over the years, and my weaknesses happen to be his strengths, and his weaknesses happen to be my strengths, and so we've always just really worked well together. And of course, Joe comes in and complements both of those really well. But for the most part, I think that's why we've worked so well for so long, is that we recognize and appreciate what each of us brings to the table versus kind of like we talked about at the beginning. There's no ego. Like I didn't even know, like, what am I, secretary, president?
Yeah.
Cool. I don't care. And
I think that's been switched around a couple times. I think Tom, the attorney, kind of just bounces it. It's really, I think he kind of goes, who answers the phone more often gets to be president. Yeah. Right. and it's just because he just needs signatures turned around. Right. It has nothing to do with what we do on a daily basis. I mean, when we talk about the companies, we sit in the room and we just kind of go, what hurts, what feels good, and let's do more of what doesn't hurt.
So 970 Services is kind of your focus enterprise in some ways, Adam, and that's is it all roofing? It's roofing and restoration? Are you doing that too?
So it's roofing and restoration, and really it's a product of, from the time we were old enough to carry a bundle of shingles, we were busy helping our dad roof houses. There was, for us, summer vacation and Christmas and spring break and Thanksgiving break, those were all opportunities to make some money as
Yeah,
far as
right.
when we grew up. And
He was a single
opportunities to
father,
work.
right? So there was four boys
Wow.
in the house.
Mhm.
You guys were raised by a single dad with
Yeah.
4
Yep.
boys. That's
Yep.
wild. Well, we'll jump in the time machine and learn more about that.
Yeah. So it was just, it kind of seemed like a natural progression. After I graduated from college, we kind of teamed up and created a company called Trainco Enterprises, and
Yeah.
the intent was to go take over an excavation company, and that didn't work out. And actually, it's kind of the best thing that ever happened to us.
Yeah.
Brian was able to go out and cut his teeth in the real estate market.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to go in as a contractor and kind of learn, not just how to work with my hands, but also how to, understand code and really kind of apply that
Oh, cool.
side of it. And
Yeah.
so when we were able to get back together, it was a pretty solid team, with
Yeah.
my knowledge and his knowledge, and we were able to kind of just leverage that and get going.
Very cool.
And then,
And then, Joe, sorry to change.
No, you're good.
Joe, when you and I met, I think you were 6 months or a year or something into, did you leave a teaching job to basically become the operator for this Epoxy Colorado?
Yep.
And was that, did you identify an opportunity, Brian, and you're like, hey, Joe, I think you shouldn't be a teacher. You should come run this
that was
Epoxy
probably
company.
like my 4th at bat with Joe to try and get him up here. We had been poking at him to get him up here for years, and me and Adam saw that come available. Taylor Grant had started that, friend of ours, and and so we were able to purchase it and really dangle a carrot for Joe. I think that worked to get him up here.
Any regrets, Joe?
No.
And how long did you teach?
So I taught for 6 years, and then I was an administrator for 3 years.
So you were on the fat track or the fast track to the fat life.
Yeah.
he
Well,
was, yeah.
You're looking slim and fit
Well,
now, so
yeah.
probably
I
happier.
got off the fat track, as it were. But when we identified that opportunity, just looked at the numbers, and it was funny because I had essentially one day to
Really?
consider.
You either had to re-up on your teacher contract
It was
or
that Monday I was supposed to go in and sign the contract,
Wow.
and I think Brian called on a Saturday. He was like, hey, we've got this chance to do this. So we essentially took a quick look at the numbers, and then my wife and I talked about it and said, what do we think? And a big part
was
of
it a
that,
done deal? Did you have a contract?
We had a contract with
okay.
Taylor,
Yeah.
and it was just a matter of getting Joe to operate the company. We didn't have space for it, but
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So we bought it just to get Joe up here. Whether it was going to work or not didn't matter.
Where were you at, Joe?
down in La Junta.
La
that's
Junta. That's where you guys are
down
from?
in the valley
Yeah.
where we're from. Yeah. So,
Okay.
So decided on that Saturday, wife and I talked it over, and then slept on it, and woke
Wow.
up Sunday and said, hey, let's give this a shot. And so called my superintendent and said, go
I have
ahead and
news.
post the job for that because I'm not going to be back next year.
Wow.
And it was. I'm a pretty safe guy. I'm not a huge
Risk-averse.
risk taker. Yeah, and so it was a big time leap of faith, and but it was cool because we had wanted to get up here for so long and be back with the brothers. Have all of our kids kind of growing up together and everything like that
cool.
too. So no regrets.
That's awesome. Tell me about Epoxy Colorado. What do you guys do?
So primarily our focus is on the
Epoxy.
residential side. Probably about 70% of what we do is
concrete floors and stuff like
garage
that?
floors, basement floors.
Okay.
And we do, resinous flooring. So the name Epoxy is just kind of a catch-all for anybody that's like, I want to have that really pretty looking floor in my garage.
Yeah.
But epoxy is not really actually the primary material that we use. But
really?
Yeah, but it's the name that kind of catches the most fish. So
Well, let's talk more about that if you don't mind.
Sure.
We'll come back to these your older brothers, and you guys are 3 boys in a 4-year span, and there was a fourth. He's not part
we've
of
got
the
a fourth brother. He works with us. He works with Joe every day.
Oh, really?
And then we have a sister that works with Adam every day.
Oh, wow.
So we all 5 work together. They came a little after our parents had split up, and our dad.
Oh, I see.
Our dad, we have Tyrell came, and our sister Corey.
Oh,
Corinne.
we'll learn more about
Yeah,
that as we
that's
jump into the
awesome.
journey.
Yeah.
And somebody named Trainor contacted me here at Loco and
Our
said, "Hey, you should."
sister-in-law.
Okay.
Tyrell's wife.
Tyrell's wife,
Okay, that's so cool.
That's
I
the
was
fourth
like,
brother.
Sure, yeah, I'd love to have you on.
For
So,
sure.
For
Yeah.
sure.
usually when somebody contacts me asking to be on the podcast, it's like some rando financial advisor in Missouri. I'm like, no, we don't do it that way.
Yeah, for sure.
Plus, not you.
Yeah. No, thank you.
So anyway, sorry to deviate, Joe. So you do kind of shiny, awesome floors, but not always of epoxy. You were starting to say, what?
So polyaspartic is the actual technical term for the material that we use most often. And that's the residential side.
But nobody knows what that is, so epoxy is easier.
Polyaspartic Colorado doesn't play as well on the side of the vehicle.
Typing it into the website is like,
yeah. How do you spell that again, right?
Yeah. So that's kind of what the name kind of does the trick there. But yeah, about 70% residential and about 30% either light commercial or industrial. And
is it new install or is it like it doesn't matter to you really much?
It's kind of all of it, yeah. So old floors, new floors. If they have a coating that's failing, we can we take that off, apply a new one, and
bada bing, bada boom.
Pretty much.
Here we are. And what's did you have few crews? Are you out there spreading the epoxy on? I refinished some wood floors once. That was kind of fun. And we did the whatever, is it epoxy that no, it's not epoxy that you polyurethane.
Polyurethane.
Right?
Yeah.
And it was pretty cool, like how use the sheep cloth and stuff and how like resistant to not being perfectly nice and beautiful it was.
Right. Yeah. So as far as that, a couple of crews. I am out there every once in a while, but as we're talking, and we'll get into that a little bit too about entrepreneurship, business growth. And,
what have you learned?
And then how to kind of create the model so that you can have a system that grows. That's kind of what we're in the middle of right now, is that next growth phase.
And I think I'll shift it back to you, Brian. Can you kind of fill us out? I know, like I mentioned, I know that H3 Construction and Services, there's kind of an expanded title there now, I think.
Yeah,
and then Beyond Blue Media with Hunter as a facilitator at Loco. Are there other enterprises? And we can, touch on them more in the time machine, or you can just kind of,
No, I mean, I think really those are our two.
Those are the main ones.
Focuses, Beyond Blue Media with Hunter.
Do you still do real estate investment and things
we
too?
We do quite a bit, right? So that's what I spend a lot of my time on. I think before I walked in there,
that's part of the Circus
12 emails from the attorney on, structuring deal structure. And so, so we're constantly looking to buy stuff. Now we are coming into the season of, I think, buying right now, right?
There's
definitely not time to sell
when there's lots of 60-somethings. Oh, yeah, in the real estate perspective, yes, but in the business market too. Like if you want to acquire,
I think if you wanted to acquire, I think acquiring a business is actually a really great way to go. If you're looking to start something, right? I mean, I think with Epoxy, we looked at it, and Taylor did a great job. The marketing was on point, and they were getting a couple hundred phone calls a month, and they were picking up 40 of them, and so that was the opportunity there. But I think that, so for us, we got Beyond Blue with Hunter, who's been on, I think, a couple, maybe, has he been on
once? Yep.
Yeah, okay. And then H3 Construction, we used to do a lot of stuff in the Front Range. We brought in a GM there, and we took that up to actually Grand County area and building quite a few homes up there.
Interesting.
And so we'll see.
Oh, so it's more of a home. Yeah, it was a home building company then too, but it was more of a general contractor, even in the commercial space at first.
Almost all custom homes.
Okay, so a different operator with a different skill set.
Different skill set.
Let's have them do this.
Yeah, very good at what he does, and so he'll take over and make that his own here soon. So,
cool.
And that'll be good. So it's, I think that's part of this too. Is you walk down the road a little bit, and like, this isn't forever. I think so many people go like, this is the thing I'm going to do. I'm going to take this job and go forever, do this thing.
Yeah.
And I think we've all gotten really comfortable with going, I'm going to try this on for a little bit. And
so if somebody came along and wanted to offer way too much money for Epoxy Colorado, you'd be like, okay. And then find another company for Joe to operate, perhaps, or whatever.
I think we would. Yeah. I think the one that I think roofing is maybe a little different than that. I think we like, we like what we have there. We like that. We just like having we got a lot of family over there, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, like, how do we get more of the whiskey?
Just like this.
Like enough to start with. Is there like a special button in here I push?
You keep talking.
The more you talk, the more you get to drink.
The more. And so I don't know. I mean, that's always an interesting question, because we have employees that might listen to this and you go, I don't want them to get the wrong impression, right? But at the same time, like, roofing's kind of just been a fun thing for us. I think it's sort of a good laboratory for our growth anyway as people, and so it's been fun. So, but Epoxy is definitely something that's our intention as a company, is we're going to try and grow multiple locations. Joe's goal this year is to grow 3 new branch locations that are not franchises, but just
places that can sell the services that you guys do.
Yeah, it's
you
franchising.
Put a little 2-person
franchising. Is that what you're
I like
calling
it. That's smart. Yeah.
So we're looking at just small markets. To
find a very small operator to have a very tiny.
people we trust. We got 2 markets, and we think we found the guy that we know we can get. We're going to kind of use you as a lab rat. We're going to test out this growth piece.
Yeah.
So we'll do that with Epoxy, but it'd be neat to sell. I mean, I think if you're not building it, selling it, then if you're not going to intend to sell it at some point, even if it's just to your employees.
Something.
You know,
like,
you should always be
why make a
that
baby
way.
if you don't want it to stay alive?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, I feels like unless there's other things we should talk about first, let's jump in the time machine and go down to La Junta.
Ordway
originally, yeah.
Okay, is that also Arkansas Valley down there?
Yep,
it is.
Okay, and from I've been to Holly all the way across over to Pueblo. Where's Ordway fit in there?
You're in there. You're in there.
It's right between all of those.
Doesn't
things,
really matter.
It's like Kansas. Think of it like flat Kansas.
I'm from North Dakota.
Pretty much same.
Basically the same thing, except it's way more colder up where I'm from.
Yeah, it's colder up there. You know, there's not a lot there, man. It's funny. It was had the most farmed acres in Colorado until like in the mid 60s or something like that.
Oh wow!
And then everybody sold their water, right? As development happened up north here, and now it looks like a bunch
they
of
dried up all those
tumbleweeds.
farms.
They did like old buy and dry.
A shame.
Play.
Yeah. Adam, why don't you talk to me about? Brian already mentioned that you were raised by a single dad. Was that way right from the start, nearly, and where's this fourth brother fit into the? Is he older or younger?
It's a great story. Adam can.
So
what parts of you must tell?
I think mom and dad split. I think I was 6, so he would have been
I was 8.
4.
Wow.
And dad, I think, fought for us and ended up with
right?
custody. And
he was one of the few men with sole parental rights. Yeah.
Right.
What? I mean, do you know the context? Like, what caused them to split, and why did your dad win custody? Like in that time, that was.
I
think
pretty unusual.
I think parenthood challenges relationships probably more than any
Really?
parent is going to it anticipates, right? You know, when you're a young couple, everybody's in love and it's sunshine and rainbows, and you throw a couple of kids in the mix, especially us ornery boys.
We were assholes, man.
And it challenges people, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of question whether or not that's really what you want to do. And I think that it just was.
He wanted to be your dad, kind of on a day-to-day basis, a little bit more than mom wanted to in some ways.
Mom, I don't think she was. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
even
hard
just being daunted by the task, like, oh my God,
Possibly.
my body created these 4 little freaking monsters.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I'm scared to death.
Yeah.
So
it's really hard to say, right? I mean, if we could go back and really know, I don't.
Yeah.
And is your fourth brother, is he younger? You said there was 2 half-brothers from later.
Tyrell's younger than us, and then our sister is from our mom.
Okay,
so Tyrell's about 7
see.
years younger than I am, and then Corey is 9 years younger. So
that's so cool.
So kind of a whole different generation, really.
Yeah.
Right. You guys are the Circus.
Yeah, we're the Circus, and you know, even our kids now, like they have their little batch of kids, and they're toddlers. You know,
our sister has twin boys, and our
3, and
our brother has
1.5, basically.
Yeah.
So, and then my daughter just actually today is her 16th birthday.
Oh,
you know,
right.
so it's a pretty big spread generationally, even though we're all the same batch technically.
Sure.
Yeah, no, I think that you know, not really sure what caused it. I think that, you know, divorce is just one of those things that, you know, I heard a comedian say one time, he said, no good marriages end in divorce. You know, like somebody says, oh, that's so sad that they split up. Like,
Right.
Why is that sad? You know, if it was a good marriage, they wouldn't have gotten
You know why divorce
right?
is so expensive?
Why?
Because it's worth it.
It's worth it. Yeah.
if you need it, it's worth it.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Well, and it's true.
So-
I think any marriage is like, I think one bad move away from that, right? I think that as you get to have like really real conversations with men, and you sit down for a real cup of coffee and you go like, how are you? And they go, well,
Yeah, here's
it's
what's
all
going
right.
on.
We're unpacking some stuff, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever. And so it's
I hope
maybe
most
that's-
aren't one bad
I know exactly.
conversation
Well, they
away.
could be
I
one
mean,
bad move, right?
I could be an asshole at least 3 times before Jill will divorce me.
Exactly.
Unless some of it has to do with infidelity, then she's
Right,
like,
exactly what I'm
"You're
saying,
out."
right?
Yeah.
I mean, you could screw up pretty easy, and so I think it's, you know, you got to work at it. So.
Yeah, fair.
But I don't know why.
Tell me about, like, were you guys, like, athletes? Were you smart? Were you troublemakers? Like, what was
All
that
the above.
scene?
all those things.
You know, I mean, I think that
Yeah.
one of the coolest things about growing up in a small town was you literally had access to everything there, you know, and you could get in trouble.
Yeah, I could take my bicycle and just go when I was 5.
We did.
We'd,
And we
literally,
did,
we'd pack a lunch because we knew we weren't coming back until dark.
Wow.
And so we'd go out, and most of the time we were just farting around at the park playing, you know, riding our bikes. We have this place we called the Dips, and there was just this old dry canal bed that
it's so awesome.
we'd ride our bikes in. And
Oh,
it's just
cool.
to
Break your
us, it
ass
was
on
like
it. Yeah.
You could ride the bikes into and out of it,
BMX
have like a
park,
little jump basically
Yeah,
coming out of it and
Basically,
stuff.
yeah.
I love it. We had paths down by the river.
That's
in
the same thing.
McElroy Park where I was.
This was down by a ditch, right?
Yeah,
Old canal. I remember one time Brian came in too hot and he flew about halfway across it and landed all the way in the bottom.
The bike went out from underneath me. I just landed right on my ass.
And he just jumped up and holding his ass.
Oh, God, it hurt so bad. Yeah.
He probably broke his tailbone. There's probably a lot of broken bones that are non-documented.
You just walk them off, right? Yeah.
It was kind of like a don't tell dad. You know,
yeah, pretty much.
You just go sit in your room for a couple hours and just, eat a banana. You'll be fine.
How big was this like school you guys went to and stuff, Joe?
Small.
And what?
In Ordway?
Yeah.
I would say that the average class size there was probably 20.
Yeah, 20 to 25.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think my class would have been 25. I think you like.
So everybody in school. There's probably an elementary school.
You know, their
school.
siblings and half of their parents are the teachers, right?
Right.
Like, it's a small community. I remember looking at
500
not too
people,
long
1,000,
ago, and like
whatever.
you'd see the same like 5 players, that are like volunteering. It's like 3 families like run the whole town, right? And
interesting.
Not because they want to, because they have to.
They're the
right?
ones that have been reproducing the most.
Yeah, sure, right. And so, Adam, keep going though. What was it like, man?
It was awesome. I mean, I love that we're from a small town because I think that a country kid or a small town kid can come into a city and function fine.
Yeah, it's almost an advantage.
I think it is.
You start working hard.
If you grew up in the city and tried to go live that, rural life, I think that you'd kind of
go pretty stir crazy.
You wouldn't understand the value in it until you did it for a long time.
Yeah.
I think that even when we go home to this day, I still kind of long for the simplicity of, a small town life.
And so was it like CSU and athletics that ultimately led you guys up here kind of thing?
Yep.
And so like differentiate yourselves a little bit, like what were your distinctive personalities evolving into, and did your dad stay single that whole time? Like you were 8,
no,
you said Brian.
He got remarried. That's how we ended up with our brother Tyrell.
Sure, but like your high school years though?
No, he ended up
just a few years.
I was 10, I think.
He was
Dad.
So 5 years maybe
so
with
a couple
dad,
years
or three.
Single,
Three.
He had those girlfriends, where you put
come
up
around
with
for
their,
a while.
little butthole of a kid. You know what I mean? We're always like navigating that as kids, and no, and he ended up getting married to a gal, and then out of that, they weren't married very long after Dad adopted our brother Tyrell, and it wasn't long after that they got divorced again.
Oh boy!
So it was cool, man. I mean, I'm so grateful for it. I'm grateful for that.
That chapter.
That chapter, right? So we grew up, single father, and as a teacher, we were poor, man.
I'm sure.
So had nothing, but it was awesome, right? And so, we got
you had enough for a used BMX bike.
Dude,
and what more do you need?
For sure, that's about all.
Lots of hand-me-downs.
Yeah, that was all you really wanted, right? Was a bike as a kid in a small town, and so for sure. And so then our mom ended up getting pregnant, having our sister was sort of a boyfriend figure.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Okay.
So then we end up kind of quickly going from like us to then like another brother and then another sister not too long after that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What was it? We have a faith segment later, but
sure.
What was the dynamic where I grew up? It was like Lutherans and Catholics, and you had to kind of pick one. What was that dynamic in the?
Yeah, our dad was raised. He was going to be a priest.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow!
He was an altar boy, and
an altar boy. Yeah.
Oh wow!
Grandma was dead set on him being a priest.
So. And how was faith still active as your parents were moving toward divorce and things, or was it ever really active, or like?
Medium.
I think
it was.
You went to Sunday school
medium
sometimes and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think Dad did his best to try. I mean, looking back now, you kind of at the time when you're a kid, you don't really realize how much work it is to get 3 kids out of bed, get them cleaned up, take them to church, and he really did his best to try to get us to church regularly. Made sure we were volunteering, and
time and money were always short in that environment. I imagine.
Always. He packed his tools in the back of a Volkswagen Jetta.
Jetta, yep.
And so I remember loading up toolboxes and saws and drills and all that stuff.
Because he side hustled doing construction and stuff, basically, to try to make it go. That's so my dad came from a divorced household, but was a motorcycle mechanic with a high school education and started a farm when I was 5.
Oh wow!
Like didn't inherit a farm or whatever. Like found a banker that loaned some money and rented land from his cousins.
Wow.
And then it's now a 10,000 acre farm.
Okay,
Very
you know, so he's my kind of
generationally, it's hard to do that all by yourself. Yeah, I mean, it's
very unusual.
Impossible.
Yeah. While most people were shrinking their farms, he was growing his. So
right.
It's been a real blessing to see that, you know, and it just really helps share an abundance mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And like what your dad was doing, like that demonstrates the hustle.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
you know that for your kids, for your families, and whatever, you can do a lot. You know, if a 40-hour work week is all you can do to manage to hope to be successful in life ever, good luck. It's not going to be that good.
I don't think it works. I don't think it works.
No.
Yeah. I don't think 40 hours is real.
So, Brian, you were first, like, graduate high school. Are you 2 grades ahead of Adam here?
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
2 grades apart.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 and 2, or 2, whatever.
Yeah.
And then, so you pack up your bags, go to CSU. You're a track stud, discus thrower, and javelin thrower already.
I graduated. Yeah. So I had a scholarship to CSU, and
was that hard for you, Adam, when he took off right away, or is that just what you expected?
I think it was expected.
Check
I think that we kind of all
yeah
knew that was coming, and that was a huge opportunity for Brian to have a base.
Were you guys always friends, like 3 amigos?
We've always been really close,
super tight. Especially I think that in a single parent household with a dad's in survival mode the whole time, right?
Yeah.
So he's working a lot, teaching us to work, which I think is maybe one of the best things that we ever got out of our
It's a blessing to you guys that he was in survival mode.
Wouldn't change a thing.
Ability to work the way that we do. But no, I think that it was expected, and I was like, all right, I get my own room now. Brian's leaving, so
yeah, exactly, man.
Don't let the door hit you, man.
Check you later. So anyway, sorry for deviating, but how was that a transfer to a big town, a college, did you feel like I felt like I was maybe going to be overmatched, like all the kids were going to be smarter than me and stuff when I went to college and stuff. Did you have that same kind of small town?
I don't think I ever thought too much about anything. I think I showed up here. I came up here the day after I graduated, had my stuff in the truck. I had a scholarship to CSU and walked out to the track. I just happened to catch them. My life is full of dumb luck, stupid things like that. Where I literally drove up here and I got here early and I sat in my truck next to the track until somebody came. Right. And it was summertime. Adam can tell you I could have sat there for 3 days in the right part of the year and there would have been nobody there. Right. And I would have had no place to stay. I had no plan.
What?
I had no house. I had no nothing. So I get here. It's
Did they send you a letter to
I think it was a
housing
Monday.
Options once you get to CSU?
No, dude, they may be, but I didn't get it. Right. Being a single father, that mail, who knows where it was. Right.
Yeah.
And so I get up here and I walk out to the track and Coach Brotherh is like, "What are you doing here, man?" And I'm like, "You gave me a scholarship. I'm supposed to throw." And he goes, "Yeah, but it's like the first day
August.
of summer." Yeah. and he's like, "Where are you staying tonight?" I was like, "I don't know." And so I end up sleeping on a guy named Casey Malone.
So you're the planner type personality.
Bro, no. So I show up. I sleep on this dude's couch, Casey's couch. I had $800 in cash from graduation cards and things, and I went to Rams Point, started calling on the sublease list, and I just offered people $300 for the rest of the summer.
Yeah.
I just went, I must have called 70 people, right? Without a cell phone, by the way. I was borrowing Casey's house phone. And, I had people cussing me out, like, "F you, man." I'm like, "All right, cool, click." I hung up. And so finally someone was like, "Yeah, dude, I'm not living there. You can have it for $300. So I drove this guy Terrence's house, gave him the $300. He happened to be on the track team, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
My roommates all ended up being either track or football guys. So I got up here, and in a couple of days I had a place to live, right? And then, I had gotten a job at a restaurant in town that same day, basically. And then I'm in the house, and the phone rings. It's this dude pissed, and he's like, "Hey, man, where's Carlos?" And I'm like, "I think he's down tanning. He's at the pool tanning." And he's like, "Tell him he's fired, And I'm like, "Oh, sweet." I was like, "Hold up, what's the job?" And he's like, "Oh, it's cleaning movie theaters." I was like, "I'll do it." And he's like, "Be at this address." So within 3 or 4 days, I had 3 jobs, And I was on a roll. So
yeah, here we go.
And basically the same shit today is how we do everything. So no, it wasn't scary, only because, man, I didn't have the time to think about that, right? I wasn't self-aware.
Were you here for an education as well as your athletics?
It was either this or the Army, right?
A path out of La Junta.
Athletics was a way to get out. We didn't have any money, dude. It was
right.
Yeah, there was.
If you hadn't have been an amazing athlete, you wouldn't have never went to college.
Probably would have gone to the Army for sure.
Right.
Yeah. That was the 2 things I knew of, right? And so got to come up here and was lucky enough that they gave me some money to train.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, And then that was, I mean, I saw the potential, and I knew what Adam was up to. And
were you also like a high school stud, Adam?
Yeah, he was. I mean, I had football recruiters, like they'd come to watch me at a football game, and then they'd be like, well, what about that other Trainor brother? Right? Because he was just so mean, dude.
Really?
Mean.
I think of Adam as the gentle.
You would think so.
No. Adam is mean.
Soft gentleman. Not
That's exactly what I'm known for, is my
your softness.
Even
Joe, I'm going to look to you
temper.
to sometimes be the moderator, because these are two very large men. You're kind of large, but like you could beat me up easy peasy. But these guys are like
they're big boys.
Big boys, yeah. Like, how was that? Like, did you grow up in their shadow in some ways?
I hit a lot. Yeah, so
from them, because they would beat you up and stuff otherwise.
Yeah. No, Brian, like Adam and I, being the closer in age, he and I would, butt heads.
It was too easy for Brian.
Adam was always just, strong, and he had like I'll get you, and I was always kind of like, I ain't here to bother nobody.
Right. So, chill, man.
Joe would come running. Like, I remember multiple times Joe would be like running up with Adam chasing him, and Joe's like, run up and hide behind me, and Adam's like,
but then Brian's got to take on my fight. But Brian's a big guy, but he's like,
not as mean as Adam.
Meanness of Adam was like, I will fight to the last.
He tried to stab me once.
Dang,
we've had
drama here.
Some epic fights.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to deny that. But it was.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's an interesting place, right?
Stabbing.
Like,
I was a minor at the time, so it's okay.
Yeah.
It's stricken.
Like, you were, I'm guessing, Adam, that you had kind of a lot of anger stuff going on because of the whole situation and stuff. You want to prove your toughness.
Yeah.
Plus, Brian's a big stud, and like to be the big ape, you got to beat up the big ape.
You got to bring a knife.
Right. Yeah. Well, and he was much
scissors,
bigger,
actually,
especially in high school. Like, he got big early, and I was kind of just like the slow, steady grower.
Yeah.
But boy, when he was a senior, he was 6'5", 265, and I think he was 180 pounds. So if I was going to
wiry and strong, and you could beat up most of your classmates, but nobody beats up Brian.
A hockey stick or a baseball.
It was a hockey stick, baseball bat,
knife, no shotguns, because
can of tomatoes.
My dad was too poor to buy a shotgun, so we didn't have a shotgun.
Thank God. If there was been any real weapons in the house,
that's probably a good
wouldn't
thing.
be sitting here, probably.
Yeah.
So, what's your departure off to school? Is it kind of the same pattern? Like, Brian's like, hey, CSU is awesome, you should come here, be an athlete?
Not quite, actually. So I had decided I was going to be a football player, and didn't get recruited to any Division I schools, and so I'd actually signed to play football for Western State.
Oh, in Gunnison, right?
My girlfriend at the time got a really good scholarship to come to CSU.
Oh.
And so I had a decision to make, I'd go play football or chase the love of my life to CSU. And so I made the choice to come to school up here. And, about 3 weeks in, for some reason, I magically ended up on the track floor in the dorms, which I'm not really sure if Brian had something to do with that or if it was just complete coincidence. But then 2 weeks into the school year, I got a phone call from the track coach. He says, hey, your brother said you want to come walk onto the track team. And I'm like, dude, I got 5th place at state in shot put. I'm like very, very mediocre athlete. But he's like, well, just come try it out.
But you probably never had any real training because you were at this bohunk little school that didn't.
Yeah,
or maybe not. Maybe your track coach is awesome. I don't know.
Coach Murphy was a pretty good throws coach. I came to the track.
You didn't start throwing
late.
track until your junior year.
No, I was a baseball player.
Right, fair.
Yeah.
So I don't want to have a snowball fight with you.
I can't throw any more on my shoulders.
As bad as your shoulders are, you
perfect. Yeah, I rehabbed mine a couple of years ago. I had my that rotator. Yeah, and I rehabbed it for 6 months before I even noticed a fragment of change.
Yeah.
And then now I'm John away again, and it's awesome.
Bro,
awesome.
Love it.
So anyway, I digress.
Yeah, no, so just kind of followed her up here and walked onto the track team, and I made it to the very bottom of the roster. I was the last person on the roster because
the
somebody
53rd man.
Literally, yeah. Actually, I was the 54th, but one of the guys didn't make grades, and so they let me on the track team.
That
and,
works.
Why I don't know, because the shot put was too heavy for me. The hammer I'd never seen a hammer before. I'd never seen a javelin before. I'd never really thrown discus, but kind of started playing around with the javelin, and I did some pitching in high school.
You're a grinder, though. Like, that's my sense is that you
totally.
will keep working.
Yeah, that's probably my one talent is just grinding it out. I'll either die trying or succeed, right? But So yeah, made the track team as a javelin thrower of all things.
Yeah.
And blew up my elbow my sophomore year. Picked up the hammer, started throwing that.
Oh.
And then had a really good career as a hammer thrower. So it was awesome.
Oh, wow.
Hammer thrower.
That's not... Were you an All-American or anything?
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, you were too?
Got to be All-American.
I was a 2-time All-American in Discus. And
wow.
Yeah, it's a fun story, but Art always tells about Coach when he talks about Adam. He says there was the first day he grabbed the 35-pound weight, which is a 35-pound ball with a handle on it, basically. And Coach, I don't know how many times he says you fell down, but basically he says I watched Adam try and throw and fall down 30 times, but he got up.
Wow.
He got up 31. You know,
because it's hard, right?
It is
hard. You got to really
like
hang your ass way out so that you don't fall down.
Counterweight that thing.
Yeah.
So, but he got up more times than he fell down, right? And so that was the moral of the story there. And so he got a position on the team, right? And ended up becoming an All-American. So
that's awesome. Good for you.
Really cool deal. Yeah, for sure.
Joe, were you weren't nearly the size of these big boys, but were you also an athlete?
Thrower.
Oh, you were. Okay.
The most talented.
Never an All-American, but
as far as pure talent, though, Joe's.
I had some tenacity as well, but luckily I had these two that were kind of the forerunners for me, and so I was able to learn ahead of time, and I had some better resources in terms of coaching and just kind of guidelines for how to do it, and so I was able to spend a lot more time becoming technical with my throwing. So we all were throwers.
You came to CSU too then?
I did, yeah.
Okay. I think at one point Joe had the 3A state record in the shot and the discus for Colorado, though. It was cool.
So you're no slouch either.
No. Not back then. No, I never got too much bigger. I mean, I guess about
those short arms.
45 pounds heavier in college than I am now, but
he's built
I do have T-Rex arms, so
he's built like
I'm more like
miler,
I'm more like a Gabon monkey.
Yeah, not me. We were just talking about this the other day. My wingspan is shorter than my actual height, so and then Brian's got like
index,
and he's got like a +5 index, and now
really,
got like a
oh my goodness,
or something like that.
That is amazing.
I
That's
can itch
really
my ankles when I'm walking.
I mean, if one of the three of you looks like a big gorilla, it's definitely you, Brian. Sorry,
for sure.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I have backhanded compliments.
that is a compliment.
That's one of my
specialties.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I hope
gorilla,
so.
Sweet man.
By the way, I ran out of the Irish whiskey, but I do have.
I know we did you in on the Irish. We've always said we're Irish. Joe did one of those 23andMe.
This is Noah's Mill bourbon.
Looks good.
Okay.
So if we get
we'll
to
move
that,
on to that
just
sure.
for the audience,
I'm trying to go slow here.
Yeah,
boys.
well, I've been pouring them really small because we got a long conversation, and we don't need to send anybody
the
home.
First bottle, so we'll get.
Yeah, well,
it was a little bit. Yeah,
we're all good. I'm feeling fine.
I feel good.
So sorry, Joe, but so you take a different track though, and go into teaching.
Yeah.
Right.
So. Yeah, it was kind of one of those things whenever we were growing up in a small town, you kind of see the people that are successful around you are a couple of different things. You've got coaches, you've got teachers, and then you've got like bankers, essentially.
Business people, right.
And so
the guy that was the elevator.
There was a thing called the county commissioner. I remember what the hell that is. But,
yeah, my best friend's dad was the county commissioner.
Yeah, there aren't that many examples of like highly successful people.
Yeah.
Right. You could be a truck driver. That's a pretty good job.
Or a farmer, right? But generation, like farmers, I've always looked at it and gone, if you don't already own one, you aren't going to get one.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's the normal thing. And you better be pretty passionate about farming.
But as far as like all of us, we all got our teaching degrees. And
we're all
Oh, really? Okay, because that was the easy stuff.
It just seemed obvious, right? Yeah,
it kind of was, bro. Yeah,
there's a little bit of that,
especially with the athletic side of it too. And you want to say, hey, this is a good way to make a living, but also, it can stay involved in coaching and everything like that.
Totally. Yeah. Actually, it makes a lot of sense. It's frankly better than
as an athlete. I think that's why a lot of athletes go there, right? Because you get to go, like Joe said, you get to coach
right.
Yeah.
Well, and there's nothing. If you love something, there's really nothing more rewarding than being able to share it with other people and help them get there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so yeah, you're staying in their hometown. Where did you go to? You went to CSU
so
and then got your teacher stuff and went actually back home instead of these guys started doing roofs and random stuff.
And then I moved out to Fort Morgan, taught a year out there, and then my wife and I, whenever we got pregnant with our first child, got an offer to move back to La Junta and teach there. So that's what we decided to do. And yeah. So I got to do the teaching thing, coaching.
Like I hope that was honoring, kind of. And
it was really good. Yeah. It was nice. And, you know, we kind of talked about the difference in, you know, growing up in a small town versus a big city. And the one thing that I'll say that I think is super valuable from growing up in a small town, and La Junta is bigger than Ordway, but still small town.
Right.
Is just the idea of community that you get there.
Yeah.
So, you know,
if you're going off the rails or something, somebody's
yeah.
going to tap you on the shoulder, be like,
people
hey.
know. Yeah. And so, you know, everybody knows you. You know everybody, and so you can't just hide out and be on your own. You have to connect in.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that really is beneficial for the world
really
of
part
entrepreneurs.
of sorts.
Is learning how to say, like, hey, I need other people to help
Yeah.
me in my life. I need to be able to connect with the world that's outside of me, and so.
Well, and it was
so
that way,
community
right, Joe?
piece was
Like,
big.
you could be poor kids. I remember, like, you know, literally, like, we all had, like, those 2 families that would feed us each. We had, you know.
Yeah.
And we would just, kids, you'd walk around town and go, like, I'm going to
Because Dad wasn't going to make dinner because
No,
he was
he
off
was-
on a project
he was
after
doing
teaching all
something,
day,
right?
and then he
Yeah.
went off to wherever.
Yeah,
And
so
And then he went back to school. And
he went back to school and
cool.
no kids,
got a
Teaching degree.
teaching degree, and so I mean, I don't know how he did it, really, honestly.
Well, it was insane, man. I remember him waking me up, like, when I was, like, 9 or 10, right? And, like, he was getting ready to drive to Pueblo. It was an hour away. So he'd wake me up at, like, 6:15, right? And be like, all right, you get up, and here's what you're feeding your brothers. And, like, I would just, like, I remember just, like,
Right.
sitting at the table,
Yeah.
like, waiting, like, okay, I'm going to sit here for 40 minutes. Because I know if I fall back asleep, I'm not going to, you know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
get up, and then give those guys a shake, and we'd eat whatever weird food I would
Pot
cook.
pie.
Like, I remember cooking like these like frozen pot pies in the microwave. Like, oh god, they're disgusting, bro. They're just soggy, right?
Yep.
And
yeah,
you're
banquet
just
pot
like-
pie. They were 33 cents a piece or 25 cents a piece.
They
on
probably
sale.
were, and that's what we ate, right? And I remember
We ate so many of those.
Dude.
Well, and I didn't share it, but like it wasn't so simple as my dad like got a farm loan and started a farm.
Yeah.
For 12 years, he worked full time at the motorcycle shop, or maybe another 8 years of that,
Yeah.
and dumped every dollar the farm made back into the farm.
Yeah.
And stayed, working this $27,000 a year motorcycle mechanic job, or 24 or something back in those days, 22.
Well, and it was a different. When was that? In the 80s.
Well,
90s?
I graduated high school in '92,
right?
and he left he was part time until I was a senior in high school, I think.
And dude, everybody was broke back then, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, he started his farm during
we were
Farm Aid.
poor, right? And it's like, well, everybody was poor. Like,
Right.
You didn't know you were poor in Ordway, Colorado. Like, we're all broke.
You were the same as
right?
everybody else,
Yeah,
kind of.
man.
Yeah.
And
So,
so
like you said, the teachers were the successful.
they
people
were.
in
They
those
had the money.
towns.
They drove like that new. That
They had
nice
only
new car.
4-year-old car.
Yeah, exactly. You didn't see, like, up here, you see new trucks everywhere, man. And, like, you didn't see, like, if somebody bought a new truck, like, you're like, oh, damn.
Yeah,
It was the
Yeah.
talk of the town, you know, when like some farmer
Get a new, like, F-250, right? And you'd say, oh,
Right.
dude, and so,
Yeah.
Dodge.
yeah.
Remarkably similar cultures, I suppose.
And so good. And it's like up here is just this land of just opportunity, and no doubt about it, right? And so, yeah, I mean, it's
Well, and there's just a lot more going on, right? Like
it's
like
like
if you start the
Disneyland
most
for business, dude.
you start the most amazing business ever in downtown La Junta, like it will die in 3 months because there's no marketplace
customer.
for it. Yeah.
Yep.
So I think I'm feeling like we kind of covered a lot of that transitioning into business realm. What are some of the things, like, how did that first not your core business thing come to life, and what was that, and what are some of the principles that you've really developed and implemented in your
Joe's moving his microphone
Circus.
away. Are you getting more whiskey or what?
Get a little more.
Joe's like, this is not my department, bro.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, I'd say that
Adam,
I mean, from the very early age, like Brian was always like very industrious, like had jobs. Sorry,
You're good.
I don't know how to use a microphone. Check.
I just put it, yeah,
I mean, I remember
get closer,
even
Adam.
when, Brian was 10, 11, 12 years old, like there was like this dumpy, really sketchy, like little apartment building, like a block away from our house.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
And he got a job like being the janitor,
Yeah, I was
So-
4th grade. I was a I had the keys to this place.
right.
So
And I look at my 5th grade son going, like, he can't even put the same 2 shoes on to go to school now. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like, I had keys. Like,
I was driving a combine when I was 11
exactly.
or 12.
Yeah, totally.
Exactly. So I still remember one time Brian came over to the house and got me. He's like, "Dude, I need your help." And I was like, "Oh boy."
Yeah.
So we go over there, and like the sewer had backed up into like the
the laundry
basement
room, bro.
laundry room.
And you're the
And
maintenance
there's
man.
like
I was
sewage in there, and
Yeah.
we're like, what do we do? And so we just got a shop vac and cleaned it up, And
Yeah.
so like I was like 10 or
couldn't have been more than much
8 or
like
10,
yeah.
and so we're here with 2 kids, just
Yeah.
figuring it out,
Right. Well,
And
there's
then-
a lot of value in that.
There
I
is.
got fired from that job because the vacuum had busted, and like I didn't tell him, and I'd been just like sweeping the hallways carpet, you know what I mean, to get whatever weird chunks
Using
of
the hokey.
Yeah, I was. And like he basically like let me go. You
Yeah.
know, which I mean
Yeah.
I can't believe I
So it goes.
kept the job
Yeah.
as long as I did. Yeah, a couple
So-
years of that. Yeah.
So what, like, how, let's go back. Different question. Like, what are the, like, mission, vision, values, even if you haven't, maybe you've defined them, maybe you haven't, but for the
Yeah.
Trainor Brothers Circus, like, what are the principles that you really operate your enterprises with and under? And I'll make that an open question.
I think leave it better than we got it, right?
Mhm.
Like I think that was sort of where we started with our dad, was always like, if we like did a concrete job in somebody's backyard, he'd make us mow the lawn, and rake it up. And so, but I don't know. I honestly, I think that, at any given time, I mean, like I said, with marriage, maybe I'm wrong about that one bad move thing, but these things could go to shit, all of them. I mean,
everything's fragile.
It's
Every
always so
person is
fragile,
fragile.
man. I mean, and so I think for us, we have some key employees and some men and women that work for us, and this isn't maybe the mission statement, but I look at it and I go, that's really why I feel good about doing it, is we could all go make more money potentially at times doing something else for
Sure,
somebody else,
yeah.
and but I think it's those people. But Adam, why don't you? I mean, I think that there's a real question you're asking, and I'm getting all like hippy dippy with it, but
Actually, I think I want to call our first break, because we're
Yeah.
going to get into some of the business principles. Maybe we'll catch a good clip here, and we're going to have a quick Western break, and I'll come back with that question.
okay.
The Loco Experience is sponsored by InMotion, providing next-day delivery for local businesses. If you need anything delivered in northern Colorado, InMotion's flat fee service is a great resource for your business. Delivering from the Wyoming border to Denver and anywhere in between, their clients range from small breweries to real estate companies. InMotion can deliver almost anything you can imagine. If this fits a need for your business, contact InMotion directly by emailing them at inmotionnoco@gmail.com. That's INMOTIONNOCO@gmail.com, and mention you heard it on the Loco Experience. So when we left off, we were starting to talk about business principles, but Adam, you had a story of the past that you wanted to share before we transition.
Yeah, and this has nothing to do with business, but it was kind of funny how
That's all right.
Sometimes Joe fits into the equation a little differently than Brian and I, being Brian and I were the gorillas,
The OGs.
the 800-pound gorillas in the room, and
Bro, where are you going with this?
all through college, me and Brian talked about wanting to go compete in the Scottish Highland Games.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Coach said, "Not on your life,
right. You might hurt yourself
You go up and do that, you get hurt.
You're going to screw your
You
scholarship
can't
up.
compete, right?" So I graduate. Me and Brian are like, we're doing it. We go up to Estes Park, and we borrowed some kilts from some people. Went down to the training room and got a pair of football cleats from the supply house.
Yes, you
some
guys,
old,
yeah.
some guys that left some cleats behind, and so Brian and I are up there competing, throwing heavy things. And
You don't really
cavers.
know anything. You've never practiced.
Never
You've
even
never
seen half of this stuff.
Yeah.
We'd literally never seen any of these implements before.
And
So talk to me about this
1-2
experience.
and everything.
Yeah,
I think we
and
took
Brian
all
broke a
of them.
few amateur records. They wouldn't let us
Yeah.
compete against the professionals. They're like, "No, you've literally never done this before."
We're like,
They're
what's
no.
this thing? Yeah.
They're like, "You can't compete with the pros." We're like, "Okay, fine."
Mm-hmm.
Well, so Brian broke like half the records. He took first.
Like,
I
this
took
is a beer
second.
league. What the
Yeah,
hell?
what's what we thought.
We would have placed him like the top 7 in every
the
single
pros,
event
yeah.
in the pros.
Whoa.
Both of us would have.
Yeah.
That's
But
cool.
anyway, so Joe was there watching, and somebody says, "Well, Joe, why aren't you out there competing with those guys?" And he goes, "I do crosswords. I'm the intellect."
I'm smarter than
He goes,
these
I'm
two
the
guys.
intellect of the brothers. Yeah.
And this was just some random stranger, so don't.
Yeah.
It's not like it's our grandma asking or something like that.
that
but-
was a great.
But that was Joe's sense of humor too.
Yeah.
and,
It's
and
dry.
he is the intellect, so
Yeah.
it's fitting.
And
So-
that was
I like
fun.
it.
I mean, me and Adam both have been to USA Championships. I've been to a couple Olympic trials, and
Right.
that was the most fun I've ever had
was a blast.
competing. I mean, they bring up these little snifters just like this after every event.
yeah,
No shit. And there's like 10 of them, right? And they're like, here's your whiskey. And you're going, this is awesome.
There was a Scotch lady. There's this lady walking around with a stack of shot glasses and a bottle of Scotch, and just walking around. I'm going to
go up there.
Athletes.
This is a very good commercial for the Scottish Highland Games, actually.
Yeah,
it was a good time. And we got to compete with top competitors in the world.
So related but adjacent, and since we're still telling stories, so Cinco de Mayo, we always have the Saturday of Cinco de Mayo. We always have a backyard party, and it celebrates our moving into our old town home. My wife and I, we don't have children, and so we can have parties when we want to.
You go to bed whenever you want.
And in February of '99, 2009, right before we bought our house, Jill and I caught a bunch of mahi-mahi. So we had a Cinco de Mayo party. We brought 4 full mahi-mahi back and blah, blah, blah. And it eventually led into my damn food truck because I had cilantro lime coleslaw. I developed for that. Anyway, longer story, but I think in year 2 we had a really good crowd, and we had a ping pong tournament that was basically a margarita drinking contest disguised as a ping pong tournament. And the brackets, they were a little loose, but I was the champion ultimately.
Of the margarita drinking or ping pong?
Well, both. It was basically a test of both. Like, how good can you play ping pong when you are drinking double the legal limit on margaritas?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
So anyway, I digress. Let's talk about business. Like, what is it that got you guys to? Is it you basically, Brian, that created the love for business, and you, Adam, that had the desire to achieve and conquer and tear down the walls? Is that combination?
Sure.
Like
it's
the
easy
initiative?
though. It's like easy to start something when you got like a dude to run through the walls.
Or
Do you know what I mean? And so
whatever.
it's like, sure, right? But I mean, all the stats on how long most businesses last, we don't need to go through them. But it only works. It only works. I think it worked for us. I only get to be me if Adam's him, right?
Yeah.
And so if I said this sounds like a good idea, and he goes, cool, man, all right, let's go, and it doesn't work if he doesn't do that, because we've actually messed with some businesses without him, and it didn't work very well, right? When I don't have a guy like him around, like, my ideas fall on their face, right? And so you got to have that. If you're, I'm not gifted enough to be all those things. So I am what I am. Right?
Well, and in our conversations that weren't recorded, we talked about really the value of diversity, and I'll definitely want to do a Halos relational intelligence conversation with you guys. I don't know if you've seen some of my stuff, my postings online, but it's like Disc on steroids, but simpler.
Yeah.
And recognizing and appreciating diverse strengths and capabilities.
Yeah.
And like honoring everybody for who they are, where they're at, and valuing them for what they are, and giving yourself credit for what you do good. Like that's been woven throughout this conversation. So how do you guys do that intentionally at the Circus?
Yeah.
Joe,
do you have that?
I think we kind of came by it honestly. I think that
you just kind of worked your way into it, figuring it out.
I think that, for one thing, just being that we're siblings, like, I can't just tell him to F off and never see him again. Like, we have to work through
Thinksgiving gets super
things,
awkward.
and there have been holes kicked in walls, and but Brian and I built our first website in my dorm room, in my wife's dorm room, actually. We didn't have a computer. She had a computer.
Was that girl you followed up here?
Who became your wife?
We've been married for almost 21 years now.
Okay.
So,
and we married sisters, right? So we're married to sisters.
Brian pointed at me. I'm
you guys could start a commune.
This is going to be very confusing for anybody listening, because we all sound pretty similar. So they're like, who the F is talking?
Is it like
I could hear my voice. I was like, that's not my voice.
Multiple personality.
Wait, Joe's talking.
My voice?
I hear my voice, but Joe's the one with his mouth moving. Anyway.
So, we built our first website together as I was a freshman. Brian was a junior
classic
in college,
construction, right?
Classic construction, and from a.
I think we put like 47 years of experience combined. As we put our dad's name on the business card.
I started working when I was.
You got 3 years. You got 1 year.
Yeah, for sure.
Dad's got 40 years.
The early 70s, I've been doing this.
Right.
No, we always had that sort of. We were always attracted to kind of doing it on our own, doing it for ourselves.
No fear.
Betting on ourselves. I think that was one thing that kind of coming up from a small town, not having a lot of money, not having a lot of resources, we got very resourceful. We learned to succeed early. you know, through athletics and being a janitor when you're 12 years old, stuff like that. So I think that it seemed pretty natural to kind of go down that road of entrepreneurship, you know.
I think that's one thing I would pull out of this tangled string of conversation just the last few minutes is, like, you better have a high motor if you want to be an entrepreneur.
1,000%.
Yeah. I mean, I think that a lot of people think it sounds cool, you know, from the outside looking in. And I think, like, right away, if you're going to do it, you realize, like, this is not a 9-to-5 job.
No.
Like, if you're lucky, it's a 5 to 9 job. And it's 7 days a week for a long time before you get to take your first Sunday off.
Well, and it's kind of like that. What's that guy with the financial thing? You know, if you live like nobody else for a while,
Dave Ramsey. Live like nobody else,
like,
so that you can.
If you build a business that empowers its people to execute the mission and do its thing, then you can live by like nobody else on the other side of it. You don't have to have a 5 to 9. You can have a freaking 9 to 11.
Yeah,
but
it's even
for that business at least, and move on and do some other interesting
right.
things.
And eventually, I think you figure out you don't really even. Like, I used to want to retire like at 40, right? And then,
right.
Whatever, but you don't really.
How old are you guys?
40. I'm 42.
Oh dang, you're so young.
41.
Babies.
I'm 41. Joe, what are you? 39.
I'll be 39 in a month.
Yeah, February 28th.
28th.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I don't know if I want to quit, right? Like I like it.
You're having fun.
I like the pieces of myself I find along the way, right? Like there is like these, like, you are eating.
Self-awareness.
You can
is
believe me,
enhanced
right? You eat
mightily.
shit sandwiches every day, you know, and you get good at it, right? And I think it's that we, you know, I don't know, man. I mean, I know for me, I wake up and I go, did I just screw all this up? I'm an idiot, you know, and then you got to kind of pick yourself up. And I think every day you go through that cycle. You've seen multiple people put up those like posters of like entrepreneurship, and you're like, I'm taking over the world. I'm like, I lost everything, right?
Right.
And it goes up and down and back and forth. And you just, and that journey is really the point, right?
Well, and like, this is an interesting perspective to come at it from, but like entrepreneurship being a journey, and like I've just heard you talking about like imposter syndrome, maybe with different words. Yeah. But you guys are like almost like the quintessential like powerful American white male.
Sure.
You know, you're like big white guys, you know, with educations, college degrees and stuff. You've got all these advantages. Should we drift into politics?
I mean, that
now?
leads well into politics, right? I mean, it's just
like is that the secret of your success, because you're powerful, big, large?
I think it'd be hard not to admit that, like, that's definitely, you know,
a contributing factor.
It is, man. I mean, I come up here a poor kid, and I put on the right clothes.
Yeah.
And I'm a big white guy.
Yeah.
And nobody ever thinks anything. But if a black kid comes up here and he puts on the clothes, he's still a black kid.
Scarier.
He's a black kid, right? Like, and like, so I can hide my ignorance, or I can hide my, you know, I can show up and they will automatically think I know something. But I mean, that
you can
kid,
pretend, like, what's that? Fake it till you make it.
Sure, yeah. But the black kid still got, like, you're still a black kid, man. Like, people still look at you like you got to prove it. You don't get just to wear like the tie and get away with it.
Right.
They'll assume I've got it, and with him, you go, cool. Now you got to prove it, right? As an African American boy, right? And so
it's almost like make it till you make it in that regard, right?
Yeah,
like you got to keep on proving and proving and proving. People just
so life has been maybe easier for you because 100%. You are kind of those stallions of the herd, if you will, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've always felt like, you know,
which comes with its own set of like cautions and responsibilities.
There's all those same things, right?
Yeah. There's no safety net really for that environment, but. You know, I know you said that you talk about faith a little bit, and I've always been a believer in, you know, the higher power, whomever he or she might be, wants a lot for us. They want prosperity for us. They want success and happiness for us, but it's not just going to be given to you, right? Sorry, a little closer.
Well, and I think, Adam, something that growing up in that faith environment, the Catholic Church, whatever it is, I think. When you were taught at a young age, like you were put on this earth for something, right? You have a special gift to give us, right?
You have a special knitted together, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I think that simple belief gives you something in, you know, in those harder times where you go like, God, man, I'm supposed to bring myself to this world, and I'm a gift.
Right.
And I think guys that don't know that or don't believe that, that's the guys I talk to, and I go, man, you're in trouble, bro, because like. You know, you are. For one, you are. I believe that in those guys that don't believe it, like they're a gift, right?
Right.
And like, bring it, and like,
for sure.
it'd be a pleasure to see who you are and what you bring to this,
But, I mean, whatever those blessings are, whatever those gifts are, and that
you can spoil them and waste them easy.
Set aside for you, you got to go get it,
right?
Like you got to go earn
it's
that.
Only if
it's there for you.
Accept that mantle.
If you put in the work, if you have the intentionality and the awareness to go grab that. But and I mean, kind of circling all the way back to the whole business kind of mindset and sort of foundational values. Like we got into building this company and growing this company and the series of companies and. I think every entrepreneur reaches a point where they're just in ultimate grind mode, right? And and you're worn out, you're tired, you don't have any money, you're not sleeping, you hardly see your kids.
We're there now,
and you're
growth phase. There.
What do they say? Like go to work for yourself so you can be free, right? Like you're free to work 120 hours a week, and I kind of had a moment. This is a decade ago where we were just in deep in the grind, and I was questioning myself. I was like, why am I doing this? Like, why do I still want this? Right? Because as much as I'm feeling worn out and tired and just really weary through the process, like I still want to do it. And I had to do a lot of soul searching at the time. Like, why am I
so you thought about balancing for a while
in this game? And I just kind of realized, I was like, I'm here to serve people, right? Like I was put on this planet to be a servant to my people, to my family, to my community, and this is my conduit to do that, right?
Yeah.
And if I can make some money doing that, great, But like really, what gives me like that deep joy and satisfaction is to just go and serve people, and be a solution and sort of a bright spot for people.
Yeah. Well, I hate to interrupt, and I'm sorry, but I was thinking about Luke. Our local think tank member that really is the general manager of your business, 970 Services. You're the president, and like the way you didn't find necessarily joy in that general manager role,
I hate it.
Sales and this and that, and so and he does, like he loves the fact that he has the opportunity to be kind of the flag bearer and the the business manager.
He represents the brand. He goes out public.
And so for him, like that's a joy, and for you it was a burden,
right? And
so when you can put people in a place where they're going to find a joy and you're going to find a burden, like duh,
absolutely,
right?
Absolutely.
And that's what I see. That's what I hear a lot about you guys doing. It's just like figuring that out.
I think going off of that too, one of the things that you kind of figure out is not every burden has to be your burden, and I think that's. We always talking about like, putting on the tool belt, but, strapping on the bags. Is there somebody
that actually like to carry this?
But sometimes it's like, you're not supposed to put on the bags, So whenever you think like, all right, this is a burden, so I need to handle this, I need to do this. And, there's somebody over there like, that's supposed to be my thing, but this guy's doing it. And I guess he's, El Jefe, so I better let him do his thing. But, a lot of times it's like finding out whenever you can unload that and giving that to somebody else, because a lot of times there is somebody else that can do it a lot better than you and free you up to do something that you should be doing. So, and I think that's one of the hardest lessons to learn for young or new entrepreneurs.
Like to accept the fact that you're not good at everything.
Yeah.
You son of a bitch.
And even if you are, like, for me, whenever I was a teacher, it's like there was plenty of things that I was not good at, but it's like I have to do them because there's somebody else to do it. This is the job description and whatever. Yeah. And so you just kind of get used to saying like, all right, from start to finish, it's me.
Well, and that's why solopreneurship is so hard, because almost nobody can be all of the things that a business requires to really be a business.
Right.
And do them all well.
Right.
Yeah.
There's very
it's a special person that can really pull all those
really rare, and they have to be basically antisocial to also not want to help.
It has to be, I think, something that like most businesses I don't think are genuinely like, oh God, I dream of roofs. You know what I mean? Like I wake up and I just think about roofs or epoxy floors. Like we don't, right? Like we don't, and I think that so for it to be something where it's like a solopreneur and it does really well, it has to be like, okay, I'm obsessed with
passion project of some
sort, I'm creating this art, or I'm doing this
and then all of a sudden it makes a bunch of money, and they go, oh, okay, now my thing's making.
Now I need to hire a helper.
Now I hire some people. But I think initially, like, it has to start out as a passion project first.
Yeah. So you'd be better off in some ways if you love business and the idea of being free in that way. It'd be better off to buy something than it would be to try to start something, because there's a lot of people that aren't passionate about a specific thing, but they're passionate about freedom and entrepreneurship and flexibility and the American way and all that.
Right.
And there's so many old people coming down the pike to want to sell their businesses.
Right.
Get them.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of opportunity to, especially now you're going to see some downturn, I think, with some interest rates going up.
So we haven't talked about your real estate practice at all, Brian. I want to give you like a 1 minute thing. Like, what do you buy your own stuff mostly? Do you want clients? Do you do first time home buyers? Do you do
a lot of clients?
What's your niches? Like just people that you've bumped into that trust you along the way?
I've never marketed before. I mean, I've been in it for
this is marketing now. We're not popular enough.
Yeah, exactly. It's something that like 2005 I started it. I saw the opportunity to sit new construction because I knew the construction world, so I started seeing that. But no, man, I mean, most of my business, all of my businesses is just referrals through my database of people. Yeah.
You've known the region for forever.
I've known it for a long time. I know the people.
Done projects, done flips, blah, blah, blah.
And I think I have that unique thing where I get to like, I know the market. I know the houses really, really well. And so I'm able to be a resource. I've always been very client centric and not deal centric. Yeah. And so I think that for me, that's been key to my limited success. But no, man, it is just, me selling real estate. I don't, I buy some of our stuff, but really it's just, I don't know. I do a fair amount, right?
Yeah.
Of business in that way.
How couldn't people know you calls because of that?
And I've got a team, right? I mean, I've got I don't know.
Don't worry, folks. That was just a bourbon bottle.
That was another empty. It was started out as a partial.
They were both was like a third.
Very low.
One was like a third.
So
four big guys have drank.
Four big guys had a couple sips of whiskey.
Yeah,
little tiny sips.
Yeah, little tiny. Nothing to fear here. Nothing.
But real estate.
But you love it, obviously. It seems like
I like it. I like helping people. I got in the market in 2005-06, so I was buyer centric because that's what was good.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of pain around selling a house because everybody was losing money. So I've always been more buyer centric, but what it's done is it's allowed me to do that business in fewer hours than 40 a week and be a part of what Adam and Joe were doing in some of the company. So it's been a gift.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I think to come back to what you were talking about a little bit earlier, Kurt. We because you asked like what's the underlying mission? What are your guys' values
Thank
here?
You, Joe. Yeah.
And
he's the smart one.
Yes.
Well,
intellect.
So when you look at all of our different businesses and see kind of what drives the motivation behind that, it's serving people. And like Adam hit on earlier is it's really about hey, if we hire somebody new, we always tell them like you're going to be part of this family and we're going to whatever we can do to take care of that person and find a way to hopefully make their lives better. That's really at the end of the day, like the bottom line isn't the dollars and cents, but it is the people that we get to work with and serve as our clients, Brian's clients, and employees that work with us as well.
Well, and the consistency I've just thought about was that all of the business interests that you've talked about all the way back to your maintenance job at the apartment building with the sewer overflow is doing things that people don't want to or can't effectively take care of by themselves.
Yeah.
I don't know how to put a beautiful epoxy / whatever. What's the big name?
Polyaspartic
floor in my garage. But I know I want it.
Sure.
And so can I trust you to put that in? Whatever. It's the roofing. It's the restoration. It's real estate. Find me a house that I really want. I don't even know what I really want. All those things. Like that's all of business, but especially that's what I see you guys doing.
Yeah.
The H3, the Beyond Blue. Like I don't want to be on social media.
No, absolutely.
Whatever.
And even with Beyond Blue, like with Hunter, our conversation recently was just printing pictures out of the families of the companies we market for, right? Because I think that those kids sit in the office, I call them kids, and they hate when they say that.
Well,
but they look, and I think they need to see that they're like marketing for these families, and like this is the
cool.
You're paying for dance lessons, and you're paying for
that's one of those visionary type ideas.
Absolutely right, and you just go, hey
this
guys,
this
is not just an SEO number, and you're seeing the little line go up, and you did a better job. Like you do that, and you do a good job of it, and you help this little kid go to camp this summer, or you feed this family, and so I think they lose a little bit of that in that company because you don't get to see your customer day to day, and like Adam does, he's interfacing, he's at their front door.
It's very tangible,
and so in that marketing style business, I think that I've looked at it and gone, I think you really need to understand how important what you do is. It's just critical.
That's cool.
These companies.
So Adam, you're kind of the face in a lot of ways for the client contact. You know what needs to happen in a lot of these situations and stuff.
Give me some context on that.
Yeah, depending on the bit and on the job. Yeah.
Depending on the job, like you're in the field a lot, right? Like you want to make sure all the jobs are done right.
Right,
and you're the person that people trust to make sure it gets done right. You're not there pounding nails.
No, but there's a lot of, for me at least, there's a lot of attachment to that relationship and that promise.
Yeah,
you know, and I'm a control freak, so handing over any part of that process. You know, you talk about the solopreneur. Like at the beginning, I was like writing spreadsheets for writing bids and trying literally trying to
over controlling
do it all,
it,
just and doing it all really badly. The one thing that I was really good at was the service component of it. But yeah, you know, I think that face to face connection with people was really special to me. You know, just the
I like it. Well, I mean, that was our original connection. I met you guys separately. Joe, you at some random event, and then you came to some of the Old Town Tuesdays.
The Tuesdays.
A couple times. The Tuesdays, they were Thursdays.
Tuesdays,
And then Adam, we were in line for lunch or something. I think at the, if I remember right, it was at the Colorado Youth Outdoors.
It might have
we
been
were in line for lunch there,
yeah.
kind of thing, for one of their things. I don't know.
First time I met you was at the...
before that. That's why I remember talking to you.
It was the...
and I didn't realize you were
Adam's
so
looking
young.
at me for help. I'm like, bro,
I was not there.
The Stan Everett thing.
Legacy.
Yeah, the Legacy Project. That's what I'm talking
about.
Yeah, they had
Legacy.
Yeah, exactly. And I had no idea, honestly, that you were so young in business at the time. Like, you were only a couple of years
brand
in
new
at that time.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe a year or two in. Yeah. Well, you carried yourself well.
Well, thank you.
Like, I was like, I should get that guy into a think tank chapter, and then you like slipped away from me. And
sure, yeah. You know, Adam, I mean, to the point that he's, you know, I mean, I think you wrote the code for Loveland, for roofing.
The most
like
recent,
the way it should be.
Finally. It's taken a while, but yeah, I helped write the code for City of Loveland Roofing,
That's
which
cool.
we kind of modeled after sort of some of our neighbors, but you know, in Colorado, like it's there's a lot of hail, right?
Yeah.
And insurance gets involved in that, and so a lot of times your code actually is a really important piece to whether or not you have coverage on certain things or you don't have coverage.
Right,
it depends on what's the code.
It helps
say.
the homeowner get paid, right? If code says it's required, the homeowner gets a better roof.
It really helps take care of the homeowner and build clarity around that whole
what
situation.
the obligation is and
right,
stuff.
Exactly.
So you have a kid getting done with swimming lessons soon, and so we're going to try to get you out of here in 30 minutes, Adam. Is that right?
Yeah, wrestling practice, something. We got 20 minutes.
Okay.
And he's slow, so
what we can do is we're going to do faith, family, politics.
Awesome.
And we usually go one topic at a time. It's up to you guys. Should we just let Adam do all three of those?
Let's let him roll, dude.
Sure.
And then if he has to go, he can.
He does a lot of pressure. You're the focus member for a minute or two. Right. And then, if you have thoughts after that, we'll share them before you go. But that we'll get you out there. Your kid won't be like,
awesome.
Where's Dad?
It'll be good for him.
So faith, family, politics.
We forgot Joe at school.
Where do you want to start?
Yeah,
we did forget Joe a
couple.
real
30 minutes away from school, and there was a couple times we.
Sorry, I turned your earphones up a little too high there.
Brian and I would get home from school, and like the phone would be ringing when we'd walk in the house, and it'd be the people at Joe's school, and they're like, is somebody coming to get Joe? And we're like,
oh yeah,
shit, yeah.
We're a half hour away.
We'll
call an aunt to see if she can go pick him up or something like that. So
stay at some
Joe had a lot of
house.
Unplanned sleepovers back in the day. So.
Yeah, we had this interesting. We had this little.
Because your dad was doing like 80 hours a week.
Well, yeah, Dad was like doing his thing or coaching, and we like had this little tiny car, and we would like
the Festiva.
There was at one point, I think there was a point where I think Pops couldn't drive. Right, he had to mix up with whiskey bottle or something.
Yeah.
So I'm driving, right? So it was like we go by the junior high. Dad is a teacher. We drop off Joe and Dad. Then we go by the elementary school and drop off Tyrell. And then me and Adam go to the high school. And then we do that all over again at the end of the day. It was like a clown car, bro. Yeah. We do that again at the end of the day every day. And so there was a couple times. I don't know. I mean, dude, I can't believe
that's where the Trainor Brothers Circus came from.
100%. Dude. And how do you forget your little brother, right?
Like, here's my question, Kurt. As the little brother, they just said that we lived 30 minutes away. How the F do you drive 30 minutes in a car?
Realize your
and it's not a big car.
Oh,
and
exactly. We forgot to stop by.
And we have
Joe.
one less human in this car.
I don't know.
How many times did it happen?
A couple.
It was probably like 3 or 4.
Yeah, enough times to where it was a trend.
We did it with Tyrell too.
Yeah.
I mean, we forgot Tyrell at the elementary
So
school.
we explored family a lot.
Yes.
Why don't we go to zoom in on your guys'
Yeah.
family? Because what's happened is, like, that's in the pasture. But Adam, why don't you tell me about your family? This woman that you chased up to CSU instead of being a football star at Gunnison. By the way, yes, good decision. Yeah.
Oh,
Wonderful.
Like the best
of
decision
all
I've
the
ever
decisions
made.
I've made, yeah, the best one.
That's what your eyes said. Just
I think
now.
we both owe Coach Bedard for that one, right?
Yeah, so I followed Nicole to CSU. She had gotten a nice scholarship, and I was pretty damn smitten with her at the time, and
and you still are. Just when she listens,
head over heels. 100%.
Me and Adam met in Alaska one summer. We both worked up there, his senior year of high school, and he had bought a ring at that point.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So we were hanging out in Alaska, and he couldn't wait to get home to propose. It was pretty neat.
But so Nicole hung out at the track a lot because me and Brian. I mean, we literally spent every waking moment at the tracks. We were training,
Right,
and that was our
and you were
our
driven
social
and focus. What was it about you that, despite your focus on athletics and just tearing down the wall between you and a successful college outcome, that you should be somebody that it seems like she pursued you at least a little bit too, or at least like
I think
wanted
lack of options, from coming from La Junta. Yeah, there's like, well,
if I'm ever gonna get out of here, it seems like this might be one of my tickets.
You guys ever seen the
that.
Christmas story where the mom and dad are sitting there watching their kids open presents, and they're sipping wine, and they say, this wine's not bad, and they say it's not good, but it's not bad. That's probably me. I was like, hey, he's not bad. He's not good, but he's not bad.
How about the other side of that question? What, like, when she was like, "Hey, I think you're cute." Like, what was it?
No,
like,
I had to.
Same thing, just not bad. Just
I didn't
limited options for both of you, and somehow you came up here. And became
I mean,
awesome.
all three of us definitely outkicked our coverage.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
fair.
So I met her second period freshman year. I was a new kid of high school and didn't make the best first impression. So it took a while for me to actually convince her to go on a date with me. But
so you pursued her for a while.
I did. Yeah.
That's the thing. Then, because
persistence, I think.
Well,
really,
and like, there is nothing a woman is charmed by more than, like, as long as it's not creepy, like pursuit.
Yeah.
Like, show me that you actually want me
You'll fight
and
a
want to
little
keep
bit
me,
for
and
it,
you'll fight a little bit for me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I mean, I had to be persistent, and finally, her friend, good friend Stephanie, thank you if you're ever listening. She said, you should ask Nicole to go to homecoming dance. And I said, no, man, she's not interested in me. I kind of feel like I kind of messed that up. And she's like, no. You should ask Nicole to go to homecoming.
Yeah, trust me.
I was like,
trust me.
Oh, you have some inside information.
Took her
We're
homecoming.
such idiots, dude. Like, we're such idiots.
I mean, I was clueless. I'm still
we
clueless.
all are.
but-
Men are.
Dude.
So that's how it started. And, she allowed me to become an adult. And we got married when we were 20.
Wow.
And I
and you had a baby right away too, because you got a 16-year-old.
Yeah, I mean, so
or not right away,
we,
but
we took a few years, but when you're 20, you're not an adult. You're not your final form, right?
Yeah.
Neither of us.
For
and
sure.
So I think that
I might not be yet, but
I
was at least 35 before I started shaping up.
I'm not sure. I think I'm still in my cocoon, but I think that there's just a lot of credit to be given to her for just kind of being patient and letting me sort of develop into a grown up, and then just a lot of luck, but also hard work, because if you're not intentional,
we sharpen
about,
each other, right? Like, that's part of the beauty of being in a relationship like that.
And you sharpen yourself to become the right tool for the job, and,
right?
And I think that if you're not,
and it's a good thing that you identify yourself as a tool, because your wife will recognize that for you too.
She's like, yeah, he's a tool.
Right.
But no, I think that like if you don't kind of wake up every day and say like I need to become
what's my role today,
the dad that my kids deserve and the husband that my wife deserves, not out of a sense of obligation or duty, but out of a sense of like, I really want this because of how much I
want to be the best husband I can
that,
for her and all that. Yeah.
And then they have to do the same.
Yeah.
And then almost 21 years later, like, we're still crazy about each other and just can't wait to see each other. And so I think that there's like,
That's cool.
So damn lucky for that, you know.
Yeah,
So,
it is a blessing for sure.
Absolutely.
You have how many little
Two kids.
Do you have?
Yep.
2 kids?
So my daughter Ava, happy birthday.
Happy
Happy birthday, Ava. She's
That's
16.
cool, man. Yeah.
16 today. Yep.
Yeah.
And my son's 13.
And what's your one word for Ava? Have you thought about that? It's hard. One word is really limiting, and it's not
That's
limiting
hard
because she's awesome in so many ways.
She's so nuanced, but
characteristic, distinctive.
I would say just independent.
No,
You know, she's
a free ranger like you guys.
She's like a nonconformist too. So like, is there a
dangerous
word,
and amazing
word that's independent,
free thinking,
nonconformist?
free
Yes,
thinking,
something like that. Yep, exactly. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So you can't tell her nothing, but she's willing to tell herself things if you convince her.
Dude, yeah. Well, and she and I are cut from the same cloth. So like, if we get in an argument about something, like Nicole's like, "Oh God,
oh shoot,
I'll see you guys in 4 hours because this is not going anywhere."
Right.
I think she's one of those kids that like, I look at her and I go like, she's gonna challenge you as a father.
Oh yeah,
but she's gonna be just fine, right?
Yeah.
Like at the same time, like she is gonna be wonderful and just fine. And I think that's what like she needs. I think great people probably need more.
Yeah.
Something more to push against.
For sure.
Right? And it's just
yeah.
I look at her and I'm like,
I think that should be one of your
awesome.
biggest challenges to her, frankly, from what I hear so far, Adam, is challenge her to make sure she finds a human that is up for the challenge of being a somebody that can sharpen her and vice versa.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if I had to pick a word, I'd say convicted. You know, like,
that's cool.
Especially right now with where she's at in her life, she's very convicted.
Cool.
You know?
And how about your boy? He's 13.
Gavin, yeah.
Hey, Gavin. What's up?
Gavin, what's up, bud? Love you. Yeah, he's 13. He's as much a boy as a boy could be. You know, he's a knuckle dragger. He's rough,
like Brian here with the
rough
long,
and rowdy, and can be
a total punk ass sometimes.
He's a punk. Dude, totally. He's 13, so the things that he thinks are funny are just so dumb, and I just.
And physically he can't challenge you, so that's annoying for a kid like that.
No, but I like it when he does. It's fun.
It is fun.
And he'll show me videos. He'll be like, "Dad, this is so funny," and I'm just like, "Oh my god, this is so dumb." But I watch it, right? Because like I remember, it's so it's like
you're exploring the boundaries of what a man should think and see and understand.
And you talk about a time machine, like he is exactly me.
Yeah,
30-some.
So there's hope for him when he's
way
25.
Smarter. Oh, he's way smarter and way kinder, and he's just
that's awesome.
He's got for being such a boy and so rough, like he's just got such a kind heart and soul, and like if I had to like describe him in a word, it would be kind, because he's got just his depth of emotion and ability to feel is like really advanced for a 13-year-old boy.
That's super unusual too.
Yeah.
So I'm going to keep you moving.
Cool. Let's go.
We did family. We're going to do faith or politics. Which do you want to take first?
Do faith.
Okay.
Yeah.
You talked slightly about the Catholic-ish kind of background. Is that still the case? Do you guys go to the, or do you?
No.
What do you do?
I guess for me, like I don't really.
Not an
necessarily.
I
mean, no. I actually am very, very active in my relationship with God. I don't necessarily adhere to any kind of particular column, if you will.
Yeah.
I think that just not to soapbox it or anything.
Talk trash, whatever.
Man, I feel like every time you divide it, you divide God's children.
People.
Right?
Yeah. That's fair. That was my biggest opposition to faith for all of my whatever I would call my agnostic season was like at that time the Irish Catholics were firebombing the Protestants, blah blah blah, and I was like, well, if this is the way the Christians treat each other, like I'll do something else. Like I'm not into that.
Totally. Yeah, and I've never understood that. So we weren't raised with any of that kind of.
We were at the church with the donuts, bro.
Well,
those Blaze donuts.
The church with the donuts.
Yeah, that.
That would be a great title for a church, actually.
Oh,
Church for the Donuts.
Church with the donuts.
To Dad's credit, I think that it was, like you kind of like it's generic, but it's like the what would Jesus do? Like I really feel like if you,
he did a good job.
If you're a Christian,
it's kind of a weaving in for
yourself,
your dad and your background.
Yeah. if you model
history.
yourself after,
And your family now, like, do you guys
totally.
don't go to a church consistently, but they know that you.
We do attend church.
Okay.
You know, and we've purposely chosen a church that really de-emphasizes the differences between other churches. You know, it's very much like, hey, what would Jesus do?
Do you want
like,
a commercial for that church?
Here's our teachings. Now I'll stay out of that. But
okay, that's cool.
No, so I think that for me, it's like, I think that there's religion, and then there's faith, and there's spirituality.
Yeah.
And I think the more
I don't really like religion.
The more religion,
I'm pretty big on faith, but I'm not very big on religion.
And I'm exactly the same. I think that religion is the worst thing to ever happen to faith and spirituality.
Fair.
And that's just kind of my
So what do you have faith in personally? Like, what are the things that really drive you and draw you?
Boy.
Yeah, I know. I ask the hard questions.
No,
that
I
other
like
people
it.
only ask, or only think.
I like that we have, like, I want to be third so I can hear.
Yeah.
Right.
So I can
sorry, Adam.
It's like if you're doing reading in class and you're like, you know, okay,
who wants to be first?
I got my chapter.
I sat in the back on purpose, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
No. So what do I have faith in? I have faith in that there is a higher power. I have faith in that there is a purpose for my being here, and grace.
Redemption.
I think grace is maybe one of the most underrated things on the planet. Both from, you know, God's grace for us and our grace for one another.
Well, and grace is so related to gratitude, and that's really the secret to happiness in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and you have to practice gratitude, but I think that it's really hard to sit here and say, like, I think I'm right, and what I was taught.
I don't spend much time with that topic either.
I believe is the only one truth.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think God's a little more powerful than that He can only show up in one way for all people.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And so I think that He is God to however He needs to be, for people to be aware of Him to sense Him.
Yeah.
So
we did family, faith, politics. Do you want to talk about politics real quick before you hit the road and go pick up your kid?
Yeah,
you
politics. I mean, politics sucks right now, but I think that, you know, it's funny actually, because you talk about faith, and I think that a lot of times faith gets kind of woven into politics by politicians and by people who want to leverage faith
one way or the other.
Right. And it's hard, right? Because I think, you know, let's just say,
so you see faith as more of a reason to unite than a reason to divide, and the world sees it opposite.
It's it's low hanging fruit for people who want to divide. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
You know, so I think let's just use an example. Let's say that I identify as a Christian conservative. Yeah. Right. 2 words. Yeah. And pretty simple. Like,
people make a lot of judgments about you based on those words.
Like, oh, if you're a Christian conservative, well, then you must support this person and this person and this person and this policy and this policy and this policy.
And you're like, no, you're wrong on 60% of those things.
Yeah. And so it's hard, because I think that a lot of times.
The last time I identified as vaccinated.
Ooh, yeah,
bro, that was a tough
careful
one.
There,
careful. Bro. Yeah. Brave. That's real brave.
So it's so nuanced, and I feel like politics, unfortunately, like you
what do you think about this world we're in right now? Like, it's crazy. Like, we got current events. We might as well. I mean, Joe Biden just got busted with having random shit in the
classified
place or something,
but he didn't even know. Like, that shit was in his back pocket.
It's random shit.
He just forgot he had it, and it was like the codes for the nukes or something.
Yeah, maybe or not.
He doesn't know.
Like, you know, I'm not a Democrat voter usually, but at the same time,
are you a Republican voter?
No, actually, I'm a man without a party. Yeah. I feel like I'm kind of homeless right now, because like I can't support the behavior of either party really. So I think that if anything, I'm a libertarian. But
do you like the what was it, the giant douche or the turd sandwich?
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly.
I voted for Kanye in the last election, just so you guys know. How much? I've been voting Libertarian for 2 selections, but I didn't think it was...
What a waste of a vote, right?
Not enough of a protest. Like, maybe so Kanye becomes
if they do ranked choice, though, if we get ranked choice voting, then your vote won't be wasted. So, because you're first vote will actually
Right,
represent
flow to your
who
second.
you want.
So you
Your
like ranked
second
choice.
vote. I'm a supporter of ranked choice
Correct.
because at
Agreed.
least
I dig it.
because your voice will be heard,
Okay.
but your vote will still count. Because if you're saying
Right.
like, hey, like I know that one of these two is gonna win,
Right.
but I
I kind of
really
like that for the third
feel for
parties
this
in some
person.
ways, yeah.
more people,
And it gives you
will be
more
able to-
license to put you what you really want
Exactly.
down.
Yeah,
you can say,
dude.
hey, here's my
Yeah,
choice.
I'm
But
on board
if,
for that.
if you're gonna
Yeah.
hold a gun to my head, I gotta pick one of these two. But that's my choice.
And it's an interesting thing because it was kind of put in place by the progressives, but
Right.
I think it might come to
It's a powerful tool,
be
no matter
their
what.
devastation.
Yeah.
It may be right
Because it allows people to actually say what I want. What I want,
Right.
what most people want, at least in the entrepreneurial space that I play, is way less government, way less regulation, way less
Yes.
obligatory
Yeah.
things that I have to do to try to create jobs and prosperity for other people. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to create jobs and prosperity for
Absolutely.
people.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
Yeah, but when
Yeah.
you say that, you get put in this category over here because of all those boxes that you just checked.
Right.
You know, if you're filling out the survey, you're checking all the right hand boxes, right?
Yeah.
Not the left
Yeah.
hand boxes. Well, when you check those right hand boxes, you're automatically associated with all the other bullshit that is associated with those. The crazies at the far, far ends of both spectrums, right?
Yeah.
And if you're checking left, you're connected to those wackos way out there in left field, right?
Yeah.
That's the problem, I think, and that's
one of the
why
reasons I love the
politics
podcast
is so
space. Like, Rogan's a great
frustrating.
example of some rando dude that, you know,
Yeah.
he's part of my, you know,
Absolutely,
the
man.
loco experience is a clear and blatant, like, takeoff of the Joe Rogan experience.
Right.
Like, I want to do long form conversations with interesting people
totally.
and, like, explore the nuance of thinking for your goddamn self.
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
And it's
So-
Absolutely.
hard.
It
because
is hard to think for yourself because we all take in sources from all over.
Yeah, and there's so many sources of information, whether it's real or fake. But I mean, these days, like it's
You can find a source to
also
share anything you want
in
to
your
say.
face.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and
the thing.
if you have an opinion,
Nice
I
job, Brian.
promise
I like the
you
way
can-
you set
you
that
can move
up.
that
Now.
microphone
It's, like,
around,
right
bro.
ready for you.
Yeah. It's
So-
tough. You just need a blanket across your lap. That'd be good. But
Me and the wife started watching Golden Girls last night.
Oh.
As our new show. We run out of shows.
That's actually pretty awesome.
Yeah, bro.
You
Blanche,
definitely watch
dude,
too much
I
TV
crushed- I had
if
a
you're
crush
Yeah,
on
when you're
Blanche
stuck
when
with
I
the
was a
Golden
kid,
Bird.
dude.
back to the Golden
Dude, I
Girls.
like the Golden Girls.
Blanche
I
was
do too, actually.
Dude, Blanche,
Like-
you know how Blanche was in the first
I think
episode?
she's a gilf.
The first episode,
according to
I mean,
modern
she was kind of a,
terminology.
she was a little bit of
So I
a
was like,
floozy, I
stop
think.
it.
Wasn't
Well,
she?
yeah.
She's the same age as Jennifer. She's 51.
J-Lo? Were you going to say J-Lo?
Jennifer Aniston, I think.
Oh.
Oh,
So
really?
Blanche and,
So-
and Jennifer Aniston are the
No
same
way.
age.
Blanche is way older than Jennifer.
Bro,
Aniston.
look it
Aniston.
up, bro.
They should do a
Really?
reboot, a Golden Girls reboot with like.
I know,
Oh, that's
dude. With
crazy.
Jennifer Aniston.
No wonder she was so hot. She was like
She
younger
was,
than me.
dude. Yeah,
Or
yeah,
damn near.
yeah, exactly, right? So watch
I
yourself.
feel less weird for having a crush on Blanche now.
Right?
As a
Dude,
kid,
sexy is
so-
sexy,
I'm
bro.
on
Like she
that,
had
yeah.
that stuff on lockdown. Blanche
Yeah,
did.
no, I was
right.
encouraging my wife the other day to be like, just go
Joe's
for the gray.
over here.
Like the
Guys are
premature
such-
gray is kind of
such nerds.
sexy. Whatever.
I
Anyway, I digress.
It's okay, Joe.
I'm gonna
It's
keep
okay.
it on
I
you
only
for
think of
another.
Blanche with Grandma Trainor, man.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Oh,
the only time I ever saw
God.
any Golden Girls was
That's
Grandma.
hey, man.
Grandma Trainer and MASH, bro.
She was helping. It was like the birds and the bees. It was her version of kind of like having that.
here's
talk.
how
She's
that-
like, hey,
here's
Here's
how
how
it
it
works.
goes.
Joe,
Subliminal teaching, man.
let me introduce you to the Golden Girls. You just do what you want to do with that, man.
Yeah.
So last segment, and then we're
Yes.
gonna get you going. We're gonna take a break because I'm
Awesome.
getting ready for another bathroom break.
Yeah.
The loco experience,
Yes.
the craziest experience of your life, Adam,
God.
that you're willing to
What?
share with the public.
Like the
audience.
whole life?
The whole life.
Dude, we
Though-
work some
You don't even
crazy
know
I'm
who
shit.
sure.
you're asking here.
Bro,
Well-
if you could have been a fly on the wall.
I'm going to ask
for-
these guys for the shared loco experience. One of these guys together are going to share that, but this is just you. You with Nicole, or you with your kids, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like this crazy
I'm
experience that
way
helps shape
calmed down
who,
compared
where,
to-
where you were. Oh, you got in a big ass barroom brawl
No,
with some
well,
punks.
I mean,
No,
yeah,
yes, I did.
too many
but
to remember.
but we're not going to talk about that yet.
Boy, the craziest experience.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that you want your potential future
Yeah,
customers
I mean,
to.
I got nothing to
learn
hide.
about.
I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not that
You're
crazy.
pretty open books, really.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I got some fun. I mean, there was the time that Joe drove the 5-wheeler off the cliff.
Almost died.
Crushed him.
The 5-wheeler?
There's a time I shot you in the head with a BB gun, and then you hit me with a rock from like 100 yards away. And
so I don't want to have a snowball fight with him either.
Rush to the hot dude. He's
deadly.
Like, who's the guy that shoots the Hawkeye or whatever?
Oh.
Brian's like Hawkeye with a rock, dude. He doesn't miss.
Yeah.
He drilled me like on the run
at 100 yards. Yeah.
See
There's just scars.
Yeah,
stitches. Yeah.
You'd be
like,
almost a specimen perfect without that little scar on your forehead. But
I would be like Brad Pitt,
right?
With the exception,
you probably would
have
have had a movie career except for that. Yeah.
I'd say like as far as an experience goes, like it's got to be. So I graduated high school, and I was getting ready to come up to CSU, and I was working on my grandpa's trout farm, and just kind of cleaning fish crap out of ponds, and,
right?
You know, just doing whatever he needed.
Throwing the corn in the ponds,
changing the
and
transmission
whatever,
in his loader. You know, he had a gravel pit, so I would like load semis and stuff like that. I was like this. I didn't know how to freaking do any of this stuff, but you know, I'd get there early in the morning and I'd fire up the sand washer, and then I'd go get in the loader and wash sand all day.
You were like his right hand man.
Yeah,
as like a 16-year-old.
But it was like the coolest job ever. And then one day, I still remember I was shoveling fish crap out of a pond into
it pulls up over in a corner kind of somehow.
Well, so he had these
bottoms
trout.
covered.
He had these trout farms.
Gosh.
It was a trout farm.
Yeah.
So he had
so he actually raised them to
like
sell the
17,
adults or fish them out if you don't catch them, kind of thing.
Yeah.
did, yeah.
So there's like 17 ponds. He supplied like
Oh
restaurants
wow,
with them.
sure.
And so I got the skid loader right next to the
which is basically
pond.
A farm.
Yeah,
right.
It's
You
totally
get a
farm.
customer.
Yeah, it is a fish farm.
I mean, you grow
Yeah.
things, you sell them for what you grow them for.
Yep.
Okay,
And so
go
I'm
ahead.
shoveling poop, and Grandpa walks up and he goes, "You want to go fishing?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, dude! This sucks, man."
Right, but
This is
shoveling poop for
Arkansas
days.
Valley. This is like it was like 115 degrees or whatever.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that he was asking me if I wanted to go work on a commercial salmon boat in Alaska.
Oh shit!
And, so his son-in-law had a fishing operation up in Alaska.
Okay.
And so next thing I knew,
That was like Grandpa's like 6th wife or something too.
Yeah.
by the way. That's
Oh,
a
yeah.
whole,
Right.
We could have a whole
His
podcast
sixth,
about that.
his
yeah.
sixth
How much
wife cousin
we need
had
something
a
like
cousin
that,
that
yeah.
worked on
two
the
full
fishing
bottles
boats
of
up there.
whiskey in like 3 hours.
Yeah.
Mom should be here for that too.
Yeah.
So man, next thing I know, I'm on a plane to Alaska, and I'm like, what in the hell am I doing? This is the second time in my entire life I've been on an airplane.
Right.
And I
Or
fly-
away from home, basically.
Yeah. And
Dude,
so,
yeah. Absolutely.
so I'm 18, flying to Alaska. Like I would get into Anchorage. I get on this little tiny like bush plane with like the propellers. You know, there's no jet engine.
I was like
just
scared to
propellers.
sign up for Peace Corps.
Yeah,
you know?
and so they fly off to this freaking fishing village, and like I don't know anybody. I like don't even know what the person
Well,
looks
at least
like
you're
that
sturdy,
I'm supposed to be meeting.
right? You're a
Yeah,
200-pound 16-year-old.
And so I worked a salmon boat for that summer, you know, and there was
And
some
you're
crazy,
a total ignorant punk ass and all these like literally kind of crazy.
totally
Dude.
Yeah.
There's crazy people. They were.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and Alaska is the ultimate.
Only
last
desperate
frontier.
weird people go up
It's-
there. Really.
There's a special breed of people up there, and
It's,
met some really amazing people. You know, some you know, natives.
Well, crazy
some
people are the best
indigenous,
people. In case
you know,
you
Inuits.
branded you with that comment.
Yeah, and no, I mean I got to spend
What a
I got
cool
to spend
thing.
the whole summer.
What a world
working
expanding
a
thing, though, right?
salmon
Like
boat,
it totally
you know?
changed the scope of your world, I suspect,
Yeah.
in a lot of ways.
Well,
like it wasn't just
yeah,
the
I mean-
Junta Valley and whatever. All
No,
the people
but
you
it was-
knew.
It was really cool because I got to incorporate like a lot of the, you know, lessons that I learned just really from like working hard, you know, from, you know, times working for dad, times working with each other, sports, you
Yeah.
know, wrestling, you know, being a high school wrestler, like that's one of the hardest things I've ever done. And I was able to take that with me. And,
Yeah.
you know, there was one stretch where we worked for 96 hours straight, nonstop. Nonstop.
I
Literally,
guess the
like,
fishing was good.
the fishing was great, you know, and so you literally couldn't stop. It's like you can't stop. Because
Really? Not even a freaking 2-hour nap?
No, if you take a nap, those are fish swimming past your nets, right? So there's dollars.
There's no way I could. That's more than a week.
Every fish,
right?
It's like
no,
a 20,
4 days.
Wait, no, it's 4 days. Okay,
4 days.
$20 bill swimming past you. If your net's not in the water, you're not making money, right? So like you just
that's just crazy.
Stop.
I remember you saying you forgot what our home looked like. You remember you saying
I worked like 85 hours in a 5-day week one time, like 15 hours a day or something. It crushed me.
Yeah.
I can't imagine like being on for like 4 days, 24 hours.
No, that's a young man's game, dude.
Oh, hell yeah.
A
crazy man's game. Like, shoot.
I remember sitting there and this was an open top boat. There was no there's no place to go,
no canopy,
shelter or anything. Like
really?
No, it's just
even if you were sleeping, you were just like right there.
No, it was just a giant bucket with enough room for guys to stand on, right? It was a bucket for fish and dudes to pull them out of the nets.
It's just like the more room you have for fish, the better.
And as long as the fishing's going, we're here, and then
Yes.
when we get done catching shit, then we come back to the port and you can go to sleep.
Exactly. And
Wow.
so I remember sitting there, and the nights were really short because this was the summer, and we're up in Alaska, so like we have like 20-ish hours of sunlight per day. I'm sitting there in the middle of the night, and I was tending the net, so like somebody had to be awake at all times because you'd have like several hundred feet of net in the water.
Like swells, and it got too full.
Yeah, or if a boat was coming, say there's a ship coming along,
right,
and you got your nets out there. And those guys cross your net, they're going to cut your nets, and
right.
they're going to sink, right?
All the stuff's gone.
So you got this like a 10 million candle power spotlight, right? And so you're just sitting there, just trying to stay awake. You're bobbing up and down. Oh, there's a boat. You start flashing them.
Hey, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. So
excuse my French.
So I'm tired.
That's why I get an explicit warning. Octopus, no octopus. Just kidding.
You know, it's kind of one of those "what the f am I doing here" moments, and I was like, I know what I'll do. I'm gonna think about home, and so I'm like trying to like visualize home.
Yeah.
And I couldn't picture what my house looked like. I couldn't picture like what my bedroom looked like, and it was weird, man. Like it took me.
You were not even gone for like 2 months by that time.
No, but it was just like the exhaustion,
right?
Know? And
wow,
got to the
I've
point
never
where
experienced anything like that.
It was bizarre, and it took me probably 20 minutes to like fully picture like walking through my kitchen, down the hallway to my room.
So wild.
And I still remember like standing at my, like in my mind, I'm standing at my doorway to my bedroom, but I couldn't picture what was on the other side. It was bizarre, man. Like it wasn't amnesia, but like your brain was just so tired. You're just like, don't bother me.
It was just running out of
conjure memories, right?
Like things. Yeah.
Huh. So
I think that's a great testimony to like
crazy things I've done. Yeah.
How like vulnerable and limited we are.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Like all three of you guys are like clearly very intelligent, very blessed
Thank you.
individuals. And
I think Joe raises the average intelligence quite a bit in here. So thank you, Joe.
Good job.
Appreciate that.
Yeah,
something
sorry you
about
can't.
Tides raising all ships or something like that.
Exactly.
Right?
Whatever.
Yeah.
Either way, it's a great example of like how weak we all are.
Mm-hmm.
There's a quote from Helen Keller I like to repeat a lot of times. It's alone we can do so little, together we can do so much.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels appropriate for this cause because we're frail, weak little creatures. Even when we're 6'3", 245-pound discus All-Americans, like we don't have it all.
No,
Certainly.
Right.
None of us do.
For sure.
No, I think that really is a good point. And we talk about that a lot, just kind of like circle all the way back to the business thing and like why we had the philosophy of like, Luke is a good example. Joel, I can't
find
not
somebody that really wants
Joel
to make
and
more
Corey
of them.
and we repeat this to ourselves a lot because it bears repeating and there's value in it, and it says, it's alone you can go fast, but together you can go far, right? And we remind ourselves of that often because there's times where we'll be frustrated with each other, but at the same time, like we recognize like, hey man, like without you, I'm nothing. Right?
And even on that fishing boat that you just talked about, without that community of other humans there enduring that same kind of struggle, no way you could do it.
Right. Yeah. Like there was 3 of us on that boat. One of us had to be on the spotlight. I wasn't on the spotlight all the time, right? Like every once in a while, I got to sit down and eat a couple crackers, while somebody else was on the spotlight.
Semi-drift, leaning against the side of the boat, but you couldn't fall asleep
because
because your butt was
sleep
wet.
with the fish,
right?
Sleep with the fishes,
so
literally.
hard to sleep. It was so cold.
What a fascinating place. So we're going to take a quick break. Adam, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
It's been great to have you here. We're going to finish this
Appreciate
up
it,
with Brian and Joe.
Awesome.
And Godspeed. Look forward to the next time we talk.
All right. Thank you.
So you guys are now lucky enough to, maybe we can paddle back and forth your faith, family, politics segment since Adam left. Why don't we just go to family right away?
Yeah.
Why don't you guys describe your families? And because we already kind of heard a pretty strong description of your background, your step siblings, your dad, your mom, all that stuff. So Brian, why don't you go first since you're the older brother?
Right.
You got some littles at home too?
Older brother, right?
Yeah, older brothers always go first.
Speaking of
That's the way that works.
Lead the way, right?
Yeah.
So I've got a wonderful wife, still married, and 2 kids. I've got an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old. So
and where did you meet her?
We met her. We met girls.
You guys are married to twins.
Sisters,
Sisters,
so it's
not
twins, but sisters.
I came home my sophomore year of college.
Okay.
I asked Joe, "Hey, do you have a girlfriend?" He goes, "I like this girl, Jessie." And I said, well, "Let's go take him on a date." I heard she had I remember her having a pretty sister, right? I remember because we went to high school together. Except for I got to high school in La Junta my junior year. I went through classes my junior year. My senior year, I for the most part had taken most of the credits I needed, so I was at the junior college.
I see.
Or
and
just
you
not
were
going to school.
Ready to
I was done, man.
Yeah.
I was working. I'd moved out of our house for the most part. I had a girlfriend that was in college. I lived with her most of the time.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it is interesting, right? But
it's an interesting dynamic in light of
your
family dynamic. When I asked Adam if he was traumatized by your departure, no, because he was gone for about a year.
I was already gone
already.
A bunch. Yeah, I was already gone a bunch. I was kind of coming and going, and had a couple jobs, and so.
Did you have some not so good relationship along the way, or you didn't even really make space for relationship to speak of until this time?
With the brothers?
Yeah, no, with girls.
Oh, with girls.
Like you were asking, I
mean, that's a huge question.
Joe hooked you up.
I mean, I think at that point, in hindsight now, I think my relationship with women at that point was just a sexual relationship at that point. And really, to be honest, I mean, we grew up without our mom, from when Joe was 5.
So
right?
the instruction on how to respect women a lot and stuff was not strong.
Sure, we were nice people. I think I was a nice guy.
Yeah.
But I think what I thought was love was probably just. I know certainly it was just sex at that point, right? So. Had sort of lived with this girl, and I'd bounce back and forth, right? But
wow,
and
but an interesting place to be for a freaking 17-year-old
boy, right? And really had a couple jobs and was just doing that. So
you were living 25 when you were 14, starting when you were
fixing sinks, right? Like going to the hardware store and
sucking
fixing sinks and just
sewer in your shop vac
when I was 4th grade, 5th grade, right? And so it's just an interesting little childhood there, but it was something where so
you knew you wanted somebody and something better. Obviously,
I didn't know any different, right? So I thought, well, this is what it is. So,
but Joe was intellectual enough to try to influence you to the better.
He was smart enough, right? And so, I had somebody tell us once, one of the guys from our hometown, he goes, "You trainers," because there's a cousin that married a gal from La Junta as well, and he was like, "You guys married all the pretty girls, There was
you sons of bitches."
We did. He did. It's like you Trainor boys, like you suck, So, but I don't know where I got distracted there, but the point was, I came home sophomore year of college, and Joe, I said, "Hey, you got any girlfriends?" Just teasing my little brother kind of thing. He goes, "Yeah, I like this girl, Jessie," but Joe wasn't driving at the time. You weren't old enough to drive.
No, I was 15.
Yeah. So I said, let's go see if they want to go on a date.
Pick up Jessie and her older sister.
Older sister, man. It's Christmas break, right? And so, because this wasn't cell phone time, right? We just drove over, man. We didn't even call him, right? So we just drove over and knocked on the door.
Hey, you guys doing anything tonight?
Yeah, straight up, man.
School.
Yes, we're on Christmas break.
I got a bottle of whiskey and a 12-pack of beer. Let's just go drive around.
We were going to go to Sonic and get,
get a Sonic. That's cooler than I knew in those days.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So we went over and I got that was like my first rejection with my wife, right? But she said no. She was getting ready to go back to school in Tulsa that next day, so. She said no, and but Joe's.
So she was fairly worldly too for a La Junta girl, right?
She was a smart girl,
went off to college far away, so she probably got some.
She did. She was smart, and so same thing. Adam's wife was valedictorian of her class, and my wife was also valedictorian of her class. And
so the prettiest girls and the smartest,
and we married some
girls
smart ones too, right? And so so we went to pick him up when I got rejected for the first time, and Joe's wife, Jessica, said yes. We went out, and we went to Sonic. Didn't we go to Sonic?
Bro,
Joe doesn't remember because we went and got a bite to eat.
No, we didn't.
And Joe broke a tooth or something.
It was like as we were at the house,
an
explosion of pain in my mouth.
Joe ended up with a root canal that night.
I ended up getting a root canal. So our aunt is a dentist.
So
we went and woke her up.
I basically just drove Joe and his future wife to our aunt's house.
Yeah.
And grabbed her and said, Joe's mouth hurts. And then she said, oh, he needs a root canal. So she drove him. And me and Jessica, Joe's wife, ended up watching a movie together.
Yeah. That was your in?
Yeah. I'm a college kid, this 15-year-old girl. And she's like, and then she was digging in. You like my sister? I'm like, yeah, she's really pretty, And so then the next summer I saw her, and she ended up transferring to CSU, and I think I tried to take her on like 3 or 4 different dates, and finally, like got her to understand again, like, hey, I'm trying to take you on a date, right? Like,
I'm actually really interested in you as a person to be with me forever.
Invited her to a concert, and then like all of a sudden she disappears, and I call her, where'd you go? Well, me and my friends left, and I'm like, well, I thought we were on a date, But so yeah, so it took a minute with her.
So communication isn't necessarily your super strong suit, at least.
Well,
in those days,
in those days, right? I mean, I'm no good with the girl thing, man. It's and so something is.
Well,
funny.
you don't need it any longer.
We're done, man. I'm locked up, bro.
Right.
Yeah. And so it's funny because like our coach, we all had the same throws coach, Coach Brotherh, who's now the head coach at CSU, and
oh wow,
and at some point he pulled me aside and he goes, Trainor, you're not going to do any better. Like, you need to marry that girl,
I like it.
And he said the same thing to Adam at one point, and Adam didn't get that point of his story, but yeah, I mean, it was it was something where I think with my wife and I don't know how everybody else sees it, but with me, it was something where I didn't have a choice. Like, I had to marry that girl. Like, she annoys me. Like, a spouse will do, but I couldn't help it, right? And so I'm lucky. I've always felt that way.
FOMO has disrupted a lot of great potential relationships.
Agreed.
So Jill and I just went to Chicago for the weekend, and we took our exchange student there to see her boyfriend, and they like started dating like a few months before she even left to go on this exchange. And anyway, long story, but about her, like after our second date, she was like, "Mom, I'm going to marry this boy." Before our second date, I told my roommates at the time, because I was living with 2 other dudes, bachelor dudes. I was like, I don't know if I want to ask Jill out, because I don't know if I want to not ever date any other girls, because if I ask her out, I'm probably not going to
marry this girl.
Yeah. And I was 26 by that time,
But you knew, right? Like,
and so did she. And so it's kind of wild how that is sometimes. And sometimes that's activated through your wrestling coach going, dude, don't be a boner. Like, you never going to do better.
You're an idiot. You're not going to do any better, right? So that's
it is not like there's better. There's not. It's better to think of it as you're not going to do any finer.
Yeah, right,
like,
for sure.
This is like a good fit for you, who you are. It's not like you're better or worse. It's not like a cattle judging competition or anything like that. It's like, who do you really jive with? Yeah. So why do you jive with her?
Yeah.
Why do you drive with her?
Because I think she balances me well, right? I can be, for me, I go home and it's home. Like, she is home, right, for me. And so I can come out into this, and what we do, and especially my portion of what we do, can be just scary, and I think for me, just having somebody I can go and I can rest in that space, right? And I can rest in.
She's your comfort in some ways.
She is, and
you're her security.
And
in some ways,
right? And it's
like,
wonderful.
You're a strong, capable man that's created income, created opportunities, created jobs for others.
For sure.
Like, that's what's more secure for a woman than that in some ways. Then you're not that bad to look at. Just saying.
Hell yeah, man.
Dude,
I grew this beard. You got a little gray coming in.
Right. You do.
Yeah.
Salt and pepper going
more
on.
than me, even. I'm like quite a bit older, but just saying.
This is so I think it's, with your spouse, right? Like, who did I hear say that? They say, if you want to be happy, marry a happy person, right? And she's a gentle, kind, like, I've never heard her say a bad thing about somebody else, and I really respect that.
That's really cool.
I don't have energy for somebody that's got
right,
all that stuff going on. I don't have time for that, right? Yeah. And I really don't, and she doesn't have any of that. Like,
and some people need a little dose sometimes of just gentleness and kindness.
I do, and it's just, we're a great partnership. We run our home very similar to each other. We don't have a lot of disagreements around how we want to show up with our kids and
well, and she grew up in the same culture as you, and right?
Agree completely. And we have different childhoods, but that doesn't really play in very often as far as.
So let's do that was quick family, but we need the kids. One word description of your two kids.
Our daughter Courtney is 13, and I would say I think of them in like in terms of what they've taught me. Right. Yeah. And so the word is easy for me, but it takes a look explanation.
Yeah.
Because
no boys need to think about that as her word.
Yeah, exactly. I just, I look at them and I go, like, I think that their spirit was here to teach me something. So for Courtney, I was taught love, right? We talked about, so her word is love, and it
wasn't easy.
What's that?
Sorry, I
easy. God, dude, you're a killer. No, man, her word is love.
That was easy.
It's easy. It's an easy word. It's an easy.
She's easy to love.
She's easy to love, man.
So
and holding her that first time I got to hold her.
Oh yeah.
And
sorry,
you're
That's
good.
A terrible way to go with your daughter.
With your daughter. It's so funny. Like you as a father get to hold your daughter, and Joe's got 3 of them, so he knows. But getting to hold your daughter and go, oh, like this is what love is.
Yeah.
You didn't know. I had no clue what love was until I held my daughter, right? And in getting to hold her and look in her little eyes and just have her look back and go, oh, now I get to go share this with my wife, right?
Yeah.
And just not, I don't think I knew, man. I don't really think
Even with your wife and stuff, you never
No,
felt
I had no
like
idea.
That level.
No, not even sort of.
You learn to love each other when you're with another adult, but with a
you learn to get along
child.
all right?
Yeah.
You learn to connect through, sex and that kind of stuff, right? As an idiot when you're a kid, like I was. But I think for me, I think it was holding
That's
my
a good
daughter
observation.
and learning like, oh, this is a different level.
I think love done right grows slow a lot of times.
100%, man.
And except when you have a child, and then it's just like, boom, there right from the start.
Yeah.
And your son is 11?
Logan's 11,
okay.
And his word's understanding. So when I look at him, he came to teach me understanding.
Yeah.
He's different than me. He's a boy, and you always as a father think your son's going to be just like you, and then they aren't. And he's here to teach me understanding. Yeah.
I like that. I like that.
So when I'm learning from them and when they are teaching me, that's what I see.
Joe, I'm going to bounce it over to you and stay on the family for now, because like you're at least a big part of the reason why your brother's happy and married and stuff like that.
I'll take credit. Sure.
I'm sure he had a lot to do with it too.
Yeah.
But like, tell me about this girl that you were like sweet on back when you were 15 or whatever.
So Jess, who used to be Jessie, now is Jessica. We started dating when I was...
You know I called her Jessica twice, right?
Did you?
I get credit for that.
Yeah.
I always get shit for calling her Jessie.
It's so funny, though. Like, we'll see people like, that we grew up with, and they still call her Jessie. But since
like
college, she's been Jessica.
Yeah.
So we started dating whenever I was 15, and,
same class.
So same class. We came over to La Junta from Ordway whenever I was in 7th grade.
Yeah.
And so, got to know her then, but started dating when we were sophomores. And
but you were sweet on each other before, kind of, or not really?
Yes and no. I mean, when you're kids, you just, I was a 12-year-old whenever we met, 12, 13. I don't know how old I was.
And your brothers are bringing you in to do projects with your dad sometimes.
Right, yeah. So you're just like,
that,
just a little kid. And even when we started dating, I mean, we're just little kids still.
Yeah.
But yeah, just since then, we just kind of sparked and, just best friends, honestly. Like, since then, we've gone through every experience together, but just kind of...
But together.
Yeah. And we had off and on, we just, in high school, we'd, break up for a week or two and then get back together. And just, that was kind of part of our story for a long time. But kind of always just found out that just liked
kind of
each other best.
To be with each other.
Yeah. So, I've been best friends and
cool.
Got married.
What was it that kept drawing her back to you, do you suspect?
I don't know. Maybe, just... There was just a good connection there.
Some kind of weird magnetism that you can't really describe.
Just like you said, a fine match. When you kind of start to say, well, what about that? Well, I don't really like this, and then you just kind of say, like, honestly, like what I like most is kind of everything about her. The things that are fiery about her are the things that are kind of chill about me. The things that are a little bit more that way for me. Just, so we have
that.
a perfect balance with each other. But the best thing is just, like I said, just best friends.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Which is pretty unique, I think, too, because I've never really had too many friends in my life.
Other than your brothers. In
brothers,
some ways.
honestly,
and that's
like
a
my
different
brothers,
kind of friendship, right? Like it's almost an authoritarian kind of realm.
And it's just somebody that you just kind of you've shared experiences with, and just like you're the thick and thin type of people. But the people that you then like choose as those pieces of your life.
Yeah, friends of the family that you choose. Right?
Yep.
In some ways.
Yeah.
So you got 3 daughters.
3 daughters.
Is that what I heard?
Yeah.
How's that? How old are they now?
So my oldest is 13.
Boy.
And then I've got 13, 11, and 9.
You're like entering the father danger zone.
Yeah. It's funny, like as I think about, like we all have a 13-year-old in our house right now.
That's cool.
And it's really good. I love my kids. They're super awesome. Just like every parent thinks of their kids. It's like they're super awesome, but no, they're wonderful. They're so much like me and their mom kind of at the same time, but only
in different ways.
Like the good parts of us, they kind of.
Well, that's easier for you to see.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I'm sure some of the other things will come out.
Yeah.
Do you want to try your hand at a 1-word description?
One
of
word.
These 3 girls.
So it's not fair because I have 3 of them, and so coming up with 3 words is a lot more difficult.
Well, they're 3 different girls, and so
they are. Yeah,
3 different words is obviously necessary.
I'll say so Kate, she's just so like responsible and just the old soul.
It's like the classic firstborn.
She's a 13-year-old who kind of behaves like she's 18 in all the
like
ways,
a mom's
kind of
dream and a father's dream too, for what that's worth.
So she's very responsible, but just kind of she's, I don't know, she dreams big and goes for big things. Yeah. She's very like motivated as well.
Leader,
that's honestly a lot of words, bro.
It's a lot of words. That's
we got responsible, but with some
we're
going
to latch on to responsible.
Your 11-year-old?
11-year-old. She is the biggest heart that I know. She's super kind.
What's her name?
Kira.
Hi, Kira.
So Kira is just she loves as deep as anybody that I've ever experienced.
That's cool.
Yeah, she's anybody, like she's her teacher. She spends all the time like, I'm gonna make my teacher these bracelets, but we'll be watching
it's
a
so
show.
Hard to think about other people. So that she does that by instinct is pretty amazing. She does, honestly.
And just like she feels so deeply. Like we'll watch a show and it's like a sad moment and everybody's got like a little tear and she will bawl for 30 minutes and just so
I like it.
So just like loves deeply.
What's up, Kira? Love you.
That's Kira, my 11-year-old, and then Chloe is my little Spitfire. Gosh, there's so many words. She's a pixie
if you want to.
Spitfire. She always is like one more. She pushes the limit for sure. She's just she wants to experience
for sure.
every part of life, and then the part that she didn't get to experience, she's like, I'll take one more turn at that, and then and keep going.
Yeah.
So
I like it. I like it.
She's just tons of fun. Knows how to have a good time with life. So maybe that's a youngest sibling. Like all the older siblings are kind of taking care of all the worry of the world, and so she just gets to have fun with it.
Yeah. I dig it. So we're like 30 minutes over our normal time already.
Bro,
we just touched on the family. Let's go together on faith. We've talked about Adam's background in space. Are you guys in the same space really, or are you in different places? And that's cool.
That's a good question. I mean, I think we're probably all somewhat in the same space with faith. I think that we all look at the world.
Do you identify Catholic still?
No.
Okay.
But we don't I don't necessarily unidentify as a Catholic. I think
it's
just like the idea of
and we don't need to put a smaller box on it than that.
I think,
is that what I hear?
Yeah, and I think the religious side of Christianity
Jesus
is
thumbs up, not thumbs down.
Jesus thumbs up, man.
I think thumbs up Jesus especially for the idea of who you should model your life after, and the idea of serving the people around you. I'll go real quick first and just kind of talk, real quick blurb about what I think is. I think one of the biggest problems with religion is everybody's like, here's what I get after it's all said and done. Like I'm working for, it's like the whole I'm working for the weekend type
this
thing.
This is the prize.
Like, if I do all this, and this, then I get heaven at the end of it. For me, it's just like I don't think that's a model that that Jesus lived whenever he was here on earth.
For sure.
It was more about like, look
he
at
did
what's
all these
around
things
you.
and then
Yeah.
suffered and died on a cross.
Yeah. But while he was here,
Here's
he's
your
like,
reward.
I'm going to help that person. I want to try to be, the best human to all these other humans.
I like
and
that.
so,
That's cool.
So
be more present focused,
more
in
present,
some ways,
less
and
about like, hey, I'm going to get heaven at the end of this, and more about like, I can
what
maybe
can I help
create
for
a little
somebody
heaven
else
here. Yeah.
happen.
Yep.
Yeah,
so
that's cool.
So that's basically my view of religion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and it's faith, family, politics, and I appreciate you making the distinction, honestly, because I don't really like to talk about religion. I'm not really that big a fan, and faith is super important to everybody, in my opinion.
It is.
So, Brian, you want to color that in at all around that edges?
I think that.
Were you guys? You and is it Nicole? Is your wife? And
Adam's wife is Nicole. Mine's Andrea.
Andrea.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
And then your wife again?
Jessica.
Jessica. Yeah, Jessie.
Jessica.
And so, were they all from the same kind of background?
Our wives grew up in a Presbyterian church,
Okay,
and my wife at one point was even in leadership there with like the pastoral selection community and stuff like that. They were both really involved in their youth group, and then Adam's wife was pretty involved in her church, the Catholic church. But I think that
it's not a reason for separation; it's a reason for
not at all
uniting.
Yeah,
is what
for
I
sure,
hear you guys
for
say.
sure. Yeah, I think that it's it's such a big topic, and it's something where you doing good, JoJo?
I'm good. Yeah.
All right.
Just kind of the witching hour of every call.
Everybody,
and text comes in at
I
the
know,
same moment.
man.
Yeah.
It's where what are we at, guys? 5:38, right?
Yeah.
For the podcast world. Man, it is a really simple answer, right? And it's a really difficult answer, and I think that's appropriate, right?
Yeah.
I've had like one too many miracles in my life to not
think there is no God
for sure, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just something just crazy.
If you let
stuff.
yourself see providence a few times, like it makes it a lot easier to believe.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing with religion, I think we actually make Jesus and that whole part of it, it's just smaller, honestly. Like I think we make it too small, and by making it small, putting it in a box, we can charge for it, right? And it's and and people would debate that all day long, but for sure, man. And when you're an entrepreneur, like you will find faith. I think like that's one beautiful thing about business.
That's how you start the next day. Sometimes
you got to wake up and go, man, I'm going to get on my knees and I'm going to pray, and then I'm going to go to work. Yeah, and that's literally how we live
just
our
having
lives,
faith that it will get better sometimes.
Absolutely, and a belief that like I believe firmly that we are all like we were created to do something special in this space, and there's a there's a lot
sure.
There's a lot more to it.
If we're all walking meat bags, like it's hard to get up every morning. Like I just want to die then,
Yeah, so that's it. Now to really define it or like to lay it out and go, well, this is like the 5-step Brian approach.
Could you illustrate the differences between Presbyterian and Catholic and
not at all,
Methodist,
man.
please?
Yeah, for sure. Exactly.
Not your department.
And that's
no
where it
saints,
all,
whatever.
It all went wrong, right, with that. And I think I've
always
always
sliced
said
it into too many pieces.
I think Jesus shows up today and he walks into most of our churches and he starts flipping tables. I really do.
I think so.
Just no different, right?
No, I don't disagree.
What in the fuck are you guys
You
doing?
guys
You know what I mean? Like you
up.
really messed this thing up. And I showed you this thing, and I think that we've got a book that's for our son because he struggled. He went to a church camp and he goes, I don't know if I believe all this. I go, that's cool, man. No worries. How about we just get a book on just Jesus' words? And how about we focus on those words for a little while?
I like it.
And let's see where you end up, And so that's been my approach with my kids is like, let's just focus on Jesus for a little bit.
Yeah.
And let's just give a little time.
Jesus do? What would Jesus say?
What did he say, man? How did he show up? Who did he hang out with?
Well, it's hard and not in line with the current marketplace of ideas to to proclaim Christ.
Pick a side, man. Everything's pick a side, right?
Right.
Right. So for
you can't be a searcher. You have to be a decider in that space. Yeah.
And it's a practice, right? I talked to him saying, your faith is a practice. There's a reason that word exists is like we're on a journey and it's a practice. And
we'll see what we find.
There's all kinds of stuff around. I mean, like this whole we got saved this weekend. That wasn't like till the 70s. That was a thing, right? I mean, before that it was a journey. It was a faith journey. And so I think we've lost track of some of that too. Like, hey man, I'm on a journey. It's okay. This is a relationship, right? And we've had good and bad, and we've had lots of times where I've like looked at God. I'm like, you know what? You can suck it, man. Like,
right.
Like this is really hard, right? And so that's a really. I mean, it can be really simple, but I don't think that's the fun answer here.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. I don't think that's the first time that somebody has said you look at God and say suck it, but
I did, right? And
we could
a whole different podcast.
We'll
leave it in there, man.
No,
it's
like
just
it. Yeah. Well, because it hurts. I've had we've had serious losses and things that just weren't
Yeah.
right, like fair and all that in our lives.
It's
So
fair, man.
and we'll leave it there. Politics.
Abandoned. I'm politically abandoned.
You're a orphan.
I'm a political orphan.
Who did you vote for in 2022
Libertarian.
or 2020?
2020 libertarian.
Always libertarian.
I couldn't
Mostly.
look at either candidate and go like I could look my daughter
Yeah.
in the eye, or I could look my son in the eye and say I voted for these people.
Yeah. So
and
Joe Jorgensen.
Yeah.
Yes. I had voted libertarian for Gary Johnson the previous two.
Yep. Same here.
But I
Yep.
voted for Kanye in the last election.
Bro, wine as well, right?
1 out of 431 in the county. I felt like it was a bigger protest vote
Yeah. Right.
than.
Yeah.
But it is. It
It's
sucks.
really sad
it's
right now,
terrible.
dude.
Like they're deciding which freaking abuse of the document handling responsibilities and obligation of the president, who presumably should have a bunch of fucking people to help him figure it out.
No, dude. He
Like,
needs a bunch.
Biden's got his scattered here and there.
Yeah,
Like,
dude,
no,
it's
I
so
wanna keep this.
embarrassing, man. I
It's
can't even imagine,
terrible.
right? Like, you look around the world and you go, what must they think of us? That, like, these are the two best dudes we can put
Oh,
in
but
front
they're
of the
worse.
world.
It's not like Europe isn't worse
That's
right
true,
now.
man.
Like
I
they're
know.
clamping.
It's
They're
insane.
like Germany is going to lose their industrial core in 2 years.
But why do we always have two super shitty candidates to choose from? Whether like
Right in every
you've got
country,
so many great
like Brazil
people.
just had this too. Bolsonaro and Lula.
Yeah,
Like it's like a convicted felon that was in prison
Yeah,
but
dude.
then released by the Supreme Court against like the biggest asshole in the country.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they're both
yeah.
terrible, and that's who rises to the awareness. And it's
Yeah.
What is it about
So,
our
yeah,
politics that
it is.
causes that kind of the scum to rise to the top? It's just like a
Yeah.
pond.
Yeah, it very is. And so I think that it's weird. I think that I actually kind of shift back and forth as like you go from like say local politics to like state politics and then say national politics. Like
Yeah.
I kind of, because I'm like sort of like this like redneck country boy, like to shoot animals
Yeah.
and eat them, but I'm a hippie at the same time, right? Like
Right. Like I smoke a little reefer
I-
once in a while.
I like to, yes, exactly. Like I like to I like to find my own meat. Like I don't want the government in
Right.
there. I don't want their hand like in
Right.
my
It's a free thinker.
food, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, yeah, like I like if there's a plant and I want to eat it, I'm gonna eat that plant. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like that's how I feel. But it's like at the same time, I always tell people like when they ask me politically, like where do you stand? I go, here's the deal. If my son's riding his bike out in the driveway and he wrecks, my wife is my little liberal, right? And I love her for it. She wants to run out and pick him up and dust him off and help him get on his bike and put him out. And I sit there and go, he's going to be just fine. He's going to pick himself up. He's going to dust himself off, get on his own bike, right? And then he's going to ride and he's going to be so much better for it. And they're both right. Like she's
Totally.
right for how she is. And
Yeah.
I believe I'm right for how I am. And it's just a difference in how we choose to raise our baby, which is like our country, right? And how we
Right.
want to love our
Well, and having a
country.
difference is kind of what's
It's wonderful,
better.
dude.
Like
In
that's
fact,
ideally that's
if he could have both, it's
like a
wonderful.
husband and wife sharpen each other. It would be
Yeah.
great if the Republican Party and the Democratic Party
We
would
could
sharpen
both
each
serve our
other
yes,
instead of
yes.
both being like, let's see
Yeah.
how we can like solidify our power and screw people over better
and create divisiveness,
and create
like Adam
divisiveness so
said,
that we
you
can
know?
like
Yeah.
position ourselves to get those votes.
Yeah.
Well, let's
yeah.
see where we can come up with the best solutions because
Absolutely.
that's what
'Cause that's what's
collaboration
both-
is supposed to be about.
Both those two, that balance, right, of how
Yeah.
we're going to care for ourselves.
Well,
and
and
our
looking toward the
sons.
future and
daughters.
trying to change, be progressive, whatever,
Yeah.
and like appreciating the things of the past. Joe, what do you have to say in that space? Politics.
I would say, as far as my own personal views, I always say I'm fiscally conservative, but socially,
So you're libertarian too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Everybody's a
socially-
freaking closet libertarian that
We
comes
are.
on
Yeah.
the show, like
Yeah.
75%.
Like leave
Yeah.
our money alone. Let me do
Yep.
whatever the hell I want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Don't
then
hurt
socially
anybody.
a lot more liberal,
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
like, and that's
Still gay
libertarian
marriage
in
is
its way too.
fine.
Yeah, exactly. Just
Well,
like,
what about
please.
Like, what's the problem,
this woke stuff going on in schools and grooming?
That's a fun
and,
one.
Like there was somebody that posted the other day, I'm dating a woman that looks like she's 8 years old, but she's actually 23, and it's great.
Yeah,
I saw that
know,
on the Twitter, and it was
Yeah.
like, is that a grooming thing too? Anyway,
Yeah.
I digress. But
I
it's
think
weird. Like there's
it's tough because you have
It
so
is.
many of those things that are just outside of the norm that
Right.
catch so much attention, and so I think that a lot of people kind of, polarize to those different things and say, well, if you're this, then that weird thing
You
that I
must
saw
hate
over
that.
there is probably what you're talking. It's
Or
like,
might be
no,
good
not
with that.
necessarily. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think like everything, just like Brian said, like being a white male then you get stereotyped over to this side.
Yeah, healthy, athletic white male with.
And I think that most people are probably a lot closer to center than anything. But as far as that goes, I agree. Like, there's idiots on both sides. I don't know why they still get all of the power. Why haven't we taken
we just want the government to be smaller,
or something? And I think like a Condi
is less corruptible is what I think about. Like if you make the government responsible for less things, then it's less influential.
Exactly.
Influenceable.
Both those words work. Yeah. I bet they both work.
And you can't you can't use the government as a tool to mess people up because it doesn't have that much power anyway.
But you realize how much power they have with COVID, right?
Gosh.
COVID hits and you go
crazy.
I'll do whatever the hell I want. And you go, no, you won't actually because you're licensed.
Nobody stood up to nothing.
We'll go ahead and put this policy into place and say you can do what you want to do, but you're violating that policy, and so
and you can't
do it if you want.
You can't go make a living anymore because, like, for me, it's real estate. I'm licensed. Adam has a license through the city and the state.
Did you have to get vaccinated to go show houses?
We didn't. I mean, we didn't.
You chose not to.
I ended up choosing to get vaccinated for my marriage's sake, honestly.
Fair.
And the reality of the vaccination deal is I looked back and I was like, I've had all kinds of shit put in my body.
Right.
And I've never complained about it once. And now there's a lot of people that are smarter than me make an argument for why that was a bad idea to put that in your body.
I didn't like the mandate.
Hell no.
Like,
I'm a rebellious.
Decision.
I mean, you put a sign on that wall, like that wall right there that says "Don't touch," and I'm like, "Fucking gonna touch."
I'm touching that wall.
Right.
Yeah. Like that's just nature, right? But that's a lot.
Or
of
if somebody puts a sign on that wall says you have to touch this wall, you'd be like, you're not going to tell me what I'm going to do with my hand.
Right.
But I mean, that's who we are.
If you ask me nice, I might do. I probably will do it.
Right.
If you tell me I must, then I'm like,
Well, that's how we got here as Americans. Like, you look at us, and like if you live here in the United States, right? Like, your ancestors came on a boat. Like, it started with like a complete
melting pot.
You know what I mean? Like, they're like, we're getting on a boat. And if they came over like the Appalachian Mountains, like, they're even meaner. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like, they're like, where you're like, okay, you're going to go to those hills, and like, what's over there?
Well, if they moved to North Dakota,
Indians. And it's even worse. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just like, and so you got like, you're not that many generations away from like some ancestor that was like, I don't give a shit, man. Like, I'm going west, right?
I'm just going where you won't tell me what the fuck to do.
You tell me not to go west, I'll go west and fucking like, I'll plant my ass in the middle of this like yucca field. You know what I mean? I always think about our great-great-grandfather. I'm like, if he'd have just like stayed on the train for like 2 more days, bro.
We'd be in California by now.
We'd have like been in California, like own some actual land. You know what I mean?
Like the temperature is perfect.
Yeah, bro. He stopped in Ordway, Colorado.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean? It must have been a big rain year or something that year.
You could still go there if you want
to.
The
land of plenty.
Yeah, I know. It's like,
freaking desert.
Bro, I think it's a desert, man. That river, like, there's like Horse Creek ran once back in like 1905.
So politics is messy. It's dumb.
Abandoned.
It's generally like the logical thing of do what you want. Small government has been abandoned basically because the other two parties have too much to gain by keeping it that way.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what's your local experience? What's that crazy experience?
That crazy thing.
Do you want to go first this time, Joe?
Yeah,
sure.
Please, youngster.
I haven't had tons of like really
no
wild
near death,
experiences.
nothing like that.
Crazy,
I mean, we've had some near death, but
just
like
so many of those. It's hard to pick one out of.
Joe lit our front yard on fire once as kids.
Yeah, I mean, I've had some fire experiences. Like, who hasn't these days? Right?
Like everybody.
You experiment when you're a kid,
dude. And I'm sitting on the couch. And this isn't your crazy experience, but I'm sitting on the couch. Me and I are watching TV on like we're like not being watched by our parents, right? And Joe just runs by, and me and Adam watch him, and like all of a sudden he runs back past us with like this little pan full of water, and he runs out the front door. And me and Adam look at each other like, what is going on out there? And we go out in the front yard, and Joe had like dumped a gas tank out and just lit the whole yard on fire.
I didn't like mean it wasn't an act of arson, but I started a small bundle of sticks on fire and wanted to get that fire going a little better. So I got a gas can and started pouring on it, and
it turns out like even
it follows it up.
Even dirt will burn.
Even dirt burns
with gas on it.
Yeah. Exactly. And will continue to burn as well. So, so as far as my craziest experience, I'll go with just kind of changing it up and choosing to do something that seems impossible. So we grew up, did all kinds of little sports, baseball, wrestling, and then track, and so kind of went that route. And then a few years ago, I decided that I was going to start running as part of a fitness challenge.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and so then decided, well, I'm going to try to run.
Well, no wonder you're so slim.
Well, I've gotten much slimmer. Yeah,
I'm doing a Wild West relay. I'm putting a team together next August, by the way, if you want to be part of it.
Okay, cool. I'm always game for stuff.
It's a relay race to Steamboat.
Is it? Okay.
From Fort Collins. So
is that the one that goes up into Wyoming and then back down from there?
Yeah, slightly.
Probably,
it goes up over Dead
To
Man
Laramie
and
and
stuff.
somewhere.
Yeah. Up through Walden. I don't think it actually gets into
Doesn't get
Wyoming,
into
but
Wyoming.
It gets right up
get
close
your ass
there.
over the pass.
Yeah.
And it's backcountry running
Yeah.
all through the night.
Yeah.
34 hours in a row for a team or something.
Well, that was my experience. So I started running, and then just kind of said, if I say it's impossible, then I have to find a way to do it. And eventually found, my way to deciding on doing a 100-mile ultra run.
You did?
And so this last summer,
That's cool.
up in Fairplay, Colorado, did a 100-mile ultra. And
Awesome.
Yeah. So
Do you think about the Leadville?
So I actually applied for the Leadville, and I didn't get in the lottery this year, so I'll keep applying. And
Awesome.
there's ways you can buy your way into it.
Yeah.
So over the next couple of years, that's kind of my plan. But
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
Congratulations. It would change. So one of my theories or one of my observations about the world is your body kind of changes itself to do the thing that you make it do.
Yeah.
And if you're I don't know, you might have been as big as Brian 2 years ago, but if you became a long distance runner, within a couple of years, it's going to trim you down and make you slim because the body's I'm not going to carry this big ass chest muscles and all
Well,
this
it's interesting
stuff.
though. Your ultra running is a little bit more suited to somebody that has a little more bulk to them,
right? Because you got to have some energy
fuel
reserves.
to burn.
And
You've got a little more
that.
strength to just kind of keep on going. And
But it's a mental game.
it's all
All
mental.
running is really a mental game.
Yeah.
The first time I ran more than a mile, it was
it's all mental game.
exactly.
And that's exactly right. So
That's
nothing
cool.
crazy.
Whatever, you did a 100-mile race, dipshit. That's crazy.
And all I always tell people is it's like running a mile. You just do it 100 more times.
Right,
That's basically
right.
it. And like you said, just keep your mind just basically blank and say, I've got to go to there, and then I've got to go to there. It's really just a
Totally.
war of attrition.
And
there.
actually, but to do it fast and well, it's not just.
I didn't do it. I never said I did it fast and well. I did it slow and poorly.
And to feel good about it, you push it a little bit at times.
For sure. Yeah, I had my goals, and I had to. I had to deny
and it's not
myself.
I'm going to make it there. Rest, it's I'm going to I notice that's the constant self-talk I have in my own brain when I'm running is I just noticed that I'm going at least 20% slower than I really could be going right now.
Yeah,
and I could hold a speed at a higher pace than this if I just try.
Yep.
And acknowledge to myself that I can push it a little bit harder.
Yeah.
And it's just that over and over and over and over. So
that's it.
Good for you.
Nothing crazy.
I want to give you knuckles.
Thanks,
yeah.
Man.
Brian, you'd ever done anything,
Dude, it's
not like that because
no, I haven't done anything like that, man.
You're a knuckle dragger, so how are you going to run that far?
I'm not.
Sorry, Mr. T-Rex
I don't know.
Here. Sorry.
That's a really interesting question, man. I'm trying to think of anything. I mean, it's lots.
Brian's life is constantly here's this crazy thing. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And so it's
hard to pull one out of those hats.
It's just all kind of it's numb because of that.
Is Andrea's your wife?
My wife is Andrea.
Has she been beaten up by so many crazy things that she's just good for the ride, or does she grab onto the back of the car and drag her feet like Wilma Flintstone?
No. She for sure is given into
at this point
to this uncertainty.
She's shit, Brian,
which is really hard for her, right? Because I think it's I live I have a high crave uncertainty, right?
Yeah.
So if I can get myself into a situation,
you're kind of happy to live in chaos, so you can see what's next from there,
for sure, right? And so if I can get myself in a situation where I'm not comfortable, right? Where I go, this is really awkward for me, then I like it, right? I love that adventure piece of life where we get to go. I love hunting animals, with a bow in my hand, and so, yearly I'll spend 20 to 30 days in the woods, sleeping on the ground.
That's cool,
and so it's fun. But to call any of it crazy, I don't know, man. I think that, yeah, I would say. I mean, Joe, I don't know. I mean,
it's so hard.
I'm third, I've had the time to.
So many people
really
would say
this
crazy thing I did one time is I graduated from high school and the next day I moved to Fort Collins, not a place to live. And Brian's just so this is just kind of part of the course. It's just what I do.
Yeah.
So it's just nothing is really.
And I've done a lot of stupid stuff like that, right? Yeah.
Just kind of with faith that I'm just gonna it's going to work because I'm a guy that's going to find a way to make it work.
I think that's kind of cool.
Gosh, crazy things. I mean, he's like you said, he's been 4 Olympic trials, and you're ranked like way up there in the world.
Far up there in the world.
Yeah, just the pursuit.
At one point. Yeah, I mean, I threw things and I threw them far. I think that it was just, I mean, it's always been an adventure, man. Like, getting, like Adam said, his second plane flight was, I'm getting to go to Alaska, and I think my first was, I guess we flew when I was a baby. We were born, me and Adam were born in Alaska.
Wow.
Flew back, and that was a flight, right? But my real like first flight, I mean, I had gone on a couple football recruiting trips to different colleges, and with track, I got to CSU, and they were like, "Hey, like we're going to go to California with like all these boys and girls are going," and and I was like, "Hey, you're going to California, and you're gonna fly there, and you're gonna be by the ocean." I was like, "I'll sign up for this, right, rather than play football." So I ended up doing track in college. It was just that. And so I think it's always been an adventure. It's funny because like, I think with our dad being who he was, and he struggled with alcohol, and we were like our whole lives, and so he was a wonderful guy to keep, he kept us, he raised us, he loved us. And at the same time, we got to kind of watch, his struggle there and we kind of raised each other. Right. And
yeah.
And so I think for me, I'm comfortable with that level of uncertainty. Right. And, and I think that, maybe it is the craziest thing.
That's probably, I think in some ways I have that, like being comfortable with
the uncomfortable
chaos or the uncomfortable unknown. Like stepping into the unknown without really knowing.
It can actually be a habit of it.
Need.
It's a human need, right? Certainty
for some
and
of us. I don't know if everybody has that need,
but,
but some of us really do.
Yeah. Even when you watch a movie, the uncertainty of the ending is why it's fun. So we all like a little bit of uncertainty, but certain people like it in a theater. Yeah. And I like it on top of a mountain. You know what I mean?
And raising a family and having a wife and all these things.
I was going to say,
leading
literally like the
circus, leading the circus while you're like willing to walk into the crazy at any point.
Yeah. I mean, I agree, man. I think that is. I mean, literally, I think it's funny, but I think the things if we're talking crazy and like how much it scares you, right? Like for sure, business. I mean, for sure, these businesses is the craziest thing I've ever done.
Having a bunch of people that have paychecks that depend on you.
Absolutely, man. Is like going, no, I got you. And I'm going, I don't fucking know what I'm doing,
right.
and like you should show up here. You should show up here Monday at 8:00, right? And I bet we'll have something for you to do.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds dumb, man, but I feel like that is the craziest thing, you know what I mean, that I've ever done is really, doing this. And it sounds stupid because that's what this podcast is about, and I don't want it to sound like I'm just doing that to make.
No, it is crazy.
Feel good.
Like honestly, it is crazy to sign up for that thing of being like, I'm going to be responsible for making sure you 7 people or you 20, 30, 50 people get paychecks next week, next month, the month after that.
1,000% the hardest thing I've ever done, right? Yeah. Especially we have some of our companies. You moved one to Grand Lake. We didn't talk about, like, we have an engineering company that moved into the hemp and cannabis space.
Oh.
And that is one I spend a lot of time in currently. And that space has sucked. It has just been so horrible.
Yeah. And I told my friend not to invest or get involved in a thing, and he did, and he finally got out with his money, getting it out of his teeth. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah,
it's been really hard, and but I'm cool with that, man. I mean, we get to learn some good stuff. So
nothing ventured, nothing gained.
I wish if there's actually anybody still listening after 3 hours, I would love to get them a good answer on what the craziest, because we've. I don't have any. I mean, I got a lot of fun stories, of being on rivers and almost drowning at 9:30 at night and flipping boats and all the crazy things.
You can hear the real crazy stories.
Yeah, exactly. Buy me a coffee. We'll tell some stories, right? But the crazy, we've done a lot. Dude, our first house we flipped, I had 5 credit cards, right? When you got 5 credit cards, put every one of them
maxed out all the way.
Yeah, dude. And we're looking at the table. We're sitting around the kitchen table.
If it goes 12 months without selling, you'll never make it.
We're out.
Yeah.
And now, honestly, at any given day, with 5 businesses rolling around, if they all take a dip at the same time, we could lose everything.
Yeah.
But what is everything ultimately, right? Like they're not going to, I'll just start again the next day.
So we raised our prices in January.
Sure.
I meant to in January 2020, and then in March of 2020, before I got my shit together to do it, COVID, stuff happened, and I couldn't really raise my prices during COVID when we're going virtual and stuff.
Yeah.
And so my staffer Alicia, who you just met, was like, basically shut all our revenue off. Like I've got all my members have to renew their membership we're trying to get ACH to save like 2/3 of the money, or we can go to the credit card. But either way, we have to like renew their willingness to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Whether they come to the meeting or not, and all of them are coming, but we don't have a bunch of their money yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, unless we start collecting, like,
we're done.
Kind of. Yeah. Like, we could only go a couple months of not having revenues and still pay all our expenses. And that's the nature of every business. And there's I'm fully confident that we will. Sure. But when there's recessions, when there's changes in the marketplace, where whatever, like, there's times when you are going to go backwards for a little while.
I mean, I think our total overhead, if you put them all together, we're pushing $300,000 a month. Right?
Right.
Yeah. And so you just look at that and you start to go like, how many jobs is that?
Right.
And like,
yeah. If the world goes to hell in a handbasket,
it takes no time at all.
It takes
for us to be
3
gone.
months before you're just like evaporated.
That's
all
assuming you have $1 million in the bank.
Real estate equity and stuff like that.
Gone.
You're like going home equity lines and all that.
Yeah, you tap it, man.
It's gone.
And you can. And I think we're there now. I think that, we had a couple big jobs we started taking on the roofing side, some big commercial.
Right.
And he tapped our home.
So there's some working capital there.
Working capital, dude. They don't pay for 90 days. You don't know, 120 days. And the
so it's just
pack is
the risk
$500,000.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you want to do that or not? And I think you just have to kind of you got to get good at letting go of it. And at the same time, showing up earlier the next day and going twice as hard. So you have to both with one hand hold it very loosely.
Yeah,
the other hand
trust
fucking start punching
and bust ass.
Yeah, exactly.
Trust and bust ass. I think that's a theme of today's podcast.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the one common thing. It was like nobody of the brothers or anybody in our family, they all show up and they go hard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's man. I'm sure I'd have plenty of friends that would be like, dude, that was crazy.
You should have picked that one out.
I know.
I think we're good because, frankly, just doing kind of what you guys do and the way that you do it is an interesting thing because it's a different model than a lot what I've seen.
Well, yeah. I mean, so for me, I'll hunt in Montana by myself, on the hillside where there's multiple grizzly bears, right? And that's my relaxing time. Right? Yeah. That's more relaxing than running these businesses, right? I don't even have a gun, right? I have a bow and arrow and a knife. I'm going to fight my way out of this thing. And I just tell my kids, I'm all dead serious. I'm hopefully I kill the bear that kills me. You guys can make a necklace out of his claws or something, bro.
Something, or out of your claws.
Yeah. And so it's, so that's how we relax. But it's, I don't know, man. We're lucky. We're really lucky.
Yeah.
Who, Joe, do you want to share how to look up these various Trainor Circus enterprises, or we'll just mention names and we'll put the links in the
thing? So I would say if you go our different businesses, so like we were talking about, the one that I run, Epoxy Colorado, the branch of that we're actually developing right now that we're going to grow with is called All American Garage Floors. So,
so you're actually pivoting away from that kind of
niche we're kind
name.
Of essentially there's going to be a branch off of us there.
Try to create a franchise around that name.
The franchise there, and that spreads a little bit better to places like Montana or Utah or Arizona. So.
Right.
And then 970 Services, that's going to be the roofing and restoration side of things. So Adam talked about that. Then we have
Google 970 Services or 970services.com. Probably.
That's right. Yep. And then we have H3, which is also Vertus. That is our essentially our design and build company.
Yep.
And so
so you guys have some flex resources that can help those companies even to some extent,
we
just
do.
all the connections in the industries and stuff like that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then we have Beyond Blue Media, BBM. So if you go to beyondbluemedia.com, they can help you out with and helping for my company.
Website to
one of the
SEO
biggest
to
pieces of
Facebook
the growth
of
my company is online leads, and so Beyond Blue is a big piece of that. So go check them out for that. And then we have Hemp Processing Partners, UPE, United Precision Engineering.
Yeah, my buddy Mike took a bath in that same industry too.
Yeah. So it's Hemp Processing Partners and United Precision Engineering. So it's a systems integration. We do midstream engineering, so big system, taking the plant apart, not oils or anything like that.
Not
what
squishing it. Yeah.
No, like what you might use to maybe
but
make
more with
t-shirts.
the strands and the fibers and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, we were doing.
Well, that's where they should be going in some ways.
That's where it started.
Right. There's kind of some more value in the long fibers of hemp than there is in the high making properties.
And it's adding it to industrial manufacturing processing. So that's where that's actually where we focus.
Cool. Interesting. And then
And then
C3 Real Estate, Brian
Trainor, man.
Find you your house. Do you have a specialty in your real estate? We barely talked about that. But
that's all right.
Touch a bunch of time.
Man, just the front range, Just front range.
Whatever.
We've been focused.
Anything from investors to first-time buyers to
I like the investor,
retirees, whatever.
That deal, it's fun to look at that deal from the investor side.
We've
done a lot more kind of farm and ranch work lately.
Okay.
I like those
acreages.
People, bottom line is like that's how we pay our bills, and so it's a great job, and really we help whoever can help, right? I mean, it'd be a lot before I said, "Nah, I'm too busy for that."
That's cool. Well, you become kind of a collection center for knowledge about the region, just through the way you have different interactions. So, before he left, Adam started asking me all about Loco Think Tank and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not going to make space for that in this long ass podcast.
Oh goodness, bro.
But,
but it wouldn't be. I mean, if I asked you, like, how do I, what is it? Like, what do we? I know I can tell you this. Like, a lot of the guys at our companies have found you outside of us as owners, right? It's like we're finding our mid-level sort of or general manager type of person going and working with you guys and what it is. I mean, I'll put my commercial. I literally don't know what you do. And but I can tell you that they come back with good questions answered.
Cool.
And it's a resource as an owner to have those general manager types there going, hey, I'm struggling with my boss. He's doing that. It is because we're definitely
I'm not sure why he's doing this.
I'm not sure why he's doing this, but it's a place for them to go. I've found, like with Luke, and he comes back and goes, hey, I have a little better understanding of you maybe, or here's how we might direct the company a little differently. And as an owner, when you have, we always talk about, like the brothers we talk about, you can hire somebody's hands, and you guys
have that kind of built in, right? You got a six-eyed monster.
We're accountable. We're accountable to each other in that way. But you can hire somebody's brain, you can hire their hands, but to hire their heart's really hard. And I think they go to some place like Loco Think Tank, and that's where they go there with their heart, and they really do go, I care about this company. Because if they didn't care, they would never show up, right?
Why would they?
And so to see them show up, you go, oh man, that guy's giving it all for us. Like he's really bringing all three of those things, because you can't buy the heart, and they have to choose to give that to you from. Them caring about you as a company and your culture and where you're at. So
it's clutch, and just to be brief and to share what Local Think Tank does, and like so for example, Brian, I would think that you would be a next level member because you are the president and kind of the chief vision guy for the Trainor Circus. It's like, what am I trying to create over the next 2, 3, 5 years? I'm not. I'm doing real estate, but I'm not really touching that many things specifically for me. It's the leaders that I hire and that I cultivate, and how I interact with them is really going to be how my legacy is built and decided. So that's what the next level is. Is like, typically the overall $5 to $25 million creator operation that does stuff and needs a leader that isn't at the front line. And Joe would be a great candidate for what we call our builder or our thinker group. That's kind of a 5 to 20 employee primary decider for that enterprise. The Epoxy Colorado, all the questions around the brand adjustment and stuff, around the marketing positioning, team management, bids, estimates, communications, marketing, those things to get you from that doer seat a little bit to the next level and separating yourself from the business some. That's what we try to do. We get people with peers that are similar level of complexity, and they meet a half day once a month, and they get a facilitator to run the meeting, to be the minder, not to be the decider, but to be the minder of the chapter that keeps order and structure. And so my podcast from this fall, episode 86, was Kim O'Neill. She and her husband and his dad really built Encompass Technologies, a huge software scale-up that went from garage to 500 and some employees, a couple rounds of private equity, a couple of acquisitions. She wants to give back. She wants to give back to the community and help other people that want to scale something special. And so she takes an underpaying job for me, managing a group of next level. With the thinkers, it's my longtime members that have sold a business sometimes and things. So that's what it is. It's a support group. It's a board of directors. It's a community of people that will shoot you straight. You guys have had that within each other, so you haven't really felt an absence.
I could totally see that.
And
entrepreneurship's
like
lonely.
10 brains is better than 3 brains.
Right.
Like that's part of the value proposition is. So anyway, we can talk more about it later, but
perfect.
That's what we do.
Very cool.
Very cool, man.
Godspeed, you guys. It's been a joy.
Hey, thank you.
It's fun to be around people that create things.
For sure.
And try to do it better. And so thanks for being here, and thank you guys for listening.
Thank you for listening to this episode. This is Alma Ferrer, producer of the Loco Experience podcast. If you enjoyed this program and would like to support the show, please share it with your favorite people and leave us a review. To see upcoming guests, behind-the-scenes footage, and more, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at The Loco Experience. Subscribe to never miss the latest interview, and until next time, stay loco.